You'll see some of the best state-of-the-art equipment in India and China. And I would argue you'll see the best foundry mines in India, right? And not in China.
Finding new customers, going to another phase of expansion. Is there something that can speed up the cycle?
Highly unlikely.
It's the hard yards, I think.
I give you 1 crore. Where do you start a foundry? What foundry do you start?
You won't get a building with that, right?
Pushkaraj will charge us more than that, only for the testing equipments.
So I think if you're really small and starting up, you need to find a niche.
So I told you earlier, right? These guys are in one of the toughest industries that you can call. They don't feel it because they are living it.
No, we feel it.
Okay.
You just cannot say it.
What is one foundry technology that is very overrated?
High pressure molding lines.
I will debate that.
If all of you guys just randomly close your foundry tomorrow, how would the country survive? You can't build up that capacity overnight.
I think that's the excitement of this opportunity, right? That this transformation is happening at this moment of time when we have the ability to actually lead the world in this, right?
So you have to innovate now.
Yeah.
Previously we were just copying or like just following, let's say.
So if I was to do something different today with our foundries and start from scratch, I would still choose the same products. I would choose the same customers. But
as you're going to see on today's episode, the best foundries in the world do 3 things right. The first, picking the right talent and designing the right organizational structure. The second, adopting world-class systems and process controls. And third, designing the right layout and picking the right foundry equipment for their products. But because these 3 are so important, the best foundries in the world also hire world-class consultants, which is something they don't talk about often. Krapohl-Wirth Consulting Group, or KWCG, is arguably one of the top foundry consultants worldwide and the most professional that I have come across. In India, they have already set up top projects for Bharat Forge as well as Craftsman Automation, and will make sure that you get everything right from the start. To find out more about KWCG and the amazing work that they do, you can reach out to them through the link in the description. And I promise you'll be in good hands. And now, let's get back to the episode. Let's just quickly introduce our panel for today, right? All the way from Chennai and from Kolhapur, sitting across, right? Why don't you tell us, Mr. Deepak Reddy, about, give us a little bit, about Nelcast, how the company started, how you got into business, and roughly about what the company does today.
Okay. Thanks, Ian. It's a pleasure to be here in Kolhapur, surrounded by a bunch of Kolhapurites. I'm not sure what the correct terminology is. But just a little background. I'm Deepak. I'm the managing director and CEO at Nelcast. Nelcast is iron foundry producing green sand castings, and we cater to the commercial vehicle, to the agriculture industries and off-highway industries, and a little bit of railways as well. Overall, the company was started operations back in 1985, and so we've been in commercial production for about 41 years. Total capacity is about 160,000 tons a year, and approximately 1,300 to 1,400 employees across 3 facilities.
Okay, so in short, he's a big guy. He's a big foundry, basically.
Yeah, it looks right. You can see.
Yeah.
He is a big guy.
I'm trying to be less big in that way.
Yeah, and you are achieving that also. Yeah, I can see that difference. I can see.
Yeah.
All right, Neeraj, what about you?
So I'm Neeraj Zanvar. I am Executive Director of Zanvar Group of Industries. My industry was started by my grandfather in 1984, and we are into ferrous castings, ductile iron and cast iron. We produce roughly 120,000 tons per annum, and we cater to off-highway as well as on-highway. So it's a bunch of mix of 50-50%. And we have got roughly around 3,500 employees, and we do all fully finished components.
Right. Aditya, what about you?
Hi, I'm Aditya Patil, Director Operations at Ghatge Patil. We are a 65-year-old company. We have 2 main divisions. One is the foundry, where we produce about 100,000 tons. Also machine those castings, mainly into tractors, a small bit of railways. The other division, we manufacture transmissions for the marine industry and contract manufacturing for Bharat Atmos, and critical products for oil and gas.
Right. And coming up to that, Pushkaraj manufactures products for all of us.
Yeah, so I'm the odd man out actually. I supply to all of them. So as we do testing equipment manufacturing, yeah, that's more or less
Yeah,
all
but you
about it.
also have to tell us a little bit about the background. Like, how did the company get here till
Okay,
today?
so the company has been in existence since 1966, 67. So it's been quite some time. It was started by my father and grandfather, and so I'm the third generation here. Yeah, and in this, we do testing equipment. We do it globally. We have like about 9,000 odd customers globally. So yes, all of the people sitting here are my customers, friends.
Right.
Yeah. And did you actually notice the quorum that we have here actually support the Indian economy roughly about $1 billion every year,
Yeah, the footprint is huge.
and thousands of people. So yeah, that's what
Altogether, how many employees do you all have, like collectively? Just curious. Like you said, I think 1,500, 1,400 roughly. What about you, Neeraj?
We have 3,500 odd employees working for us.
3,000,
For us, about 2,500.
2,500.
Don't ask me. I'm into equipment manufacturing, so they are the must.
He doesn't need a lot of manpower. So when
Yeah.
you talk about automation, this thing, he's already ahead.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a huge footprint, right? And I think this is really important because you guys are contributing to the country as a whole and also a lot of exports now. I think you all mentioned earlier. So I'm just trying to wonder if all of you guys just randomly closed your foundry tomorrow, how would the country survive? You can't build up that capacity overnight. Like, let's be real about it.
Yeah, it takes time, right? It does take time, but it does get absorbed, right? I think one of the things I would say about the foundry industry in India is that it's actually very fragmented. While you do have very few big players, as a percentage of the overall industry, the big players actually make a very small dent in the overall numbers, right? So maybe it's running around a little bit to to develop the capacity elsewhere that might be there, develop some capabilities as well. But I don't think it would, drastically change everything over the long
That is you
term.
being modest. I would be honest about that.
Yeah, I think we have to be modest, right? I don't think we can get too full of ourselves on that.
And over the last, I would say, 10 years, there's more than enough capacity built in India. There are good lines. Earlier there were few people who had high pressure molding lines, which is not a thing today. Like everybody has a high pressure molding line.
Right.
So it probably, I would say, if Ghatge Patil shut down tomorrow, all of a sudden, I would give our customers about 6 months by the time they come back on their feet. So I don't think it's going to be anything drastic in that sense.
So then I have a follow-up question. How do you all guarantee that you all can stand apart from the competition today? Like even being as large as you are currently, how do you stand apart?
I think we stand apart in all our foundries. Yes, one is the quality of equipment that we have, and more importantly, I think the teams that we have had over the years. Yes, you can have a great high pressure molding line and top of the line European equipment coming in, but people to run it with the experience that you need, I think makes a difference. Between if you kind of compare, I think the people will make a difference at the end of the day. Yes, obviously the equipment, more so the people. We've had people, I think, in all our organizations which have been with us over 30 odd years. And that plays a big role in terms of experience, understanding different technologies, helping, us, the newer guys, in terms of when we're leading the business, kind of guiding us through what kind of stuff to buy. So I think, more or less, the people will make a big difference.
Right. Would you agree, Neeraj?
For us, I completely agree with that. And secondly, we understand customers' requirement. If we serve customer well, I think everyone has grown from one foundry to multiple foundries, understanding the customer needs and supporting them when it is required on all the fronts. So that is a unique factor what Indian industry also has. So actually, if you see our growth, we were into semi-automatic line. From semi-automatic line, we have gone to automatic line. So that is because customers' requirements have changed and accordingly we have changed. So customer could build trust on us. So that is how we could stand apart from other industry. So that is what our growth story lies.
Right.
So I think the growth story, right, obviously is based on having the right people, right, and motivating them. Obviously, loyalty is an important factor because you want continuity, right? You don't want the direction changing every time. But that being said, I think using those people to kind of build better systems and processes also streamlines things better for the future, right? It's definitely, I think, one of the important things. And like Neeraj was just saying, it's really important to understand the customer and what you can do to differentiate yourself in the eyes of the customer, right? Whether that might be improving quality and offering them a better solution than what they might get elsewhere, or it might just be offering them product or a product range that they cannot get elsewhere, right? And really optimizing your process to support them. So
Right.
I think that's really the
Basically,
takeaway.
what you're trying to say is that customers view you all as partners, not as suppliers, basically.
Yes.
Right? And I also think that the speed of development at your facilities will be much faster, because obviously talent will be able to get them to go to market much quicker.
So one of the things maybe to add to that is, I'm sure we have great partnerships with many of our customers, where when the customer is thinking of launching a new product, they actually quite early in involving us in the design phase, right? To make it better for manufacturing, to make it better for them at the end of the day, right? And when you get into that, that's when you have a real partnership rather than a supplier buyer relationship.
Correct. Being involved in the design process.
Yeah.
Right,
So I have one very particular observation in this regard about Neeraj. So though he does like 100,000 or plus tons of castings every year, if you know the buying hierarchy, you have the entire hierarchy, and there is one guy who is following up with your organization day in day out for something, and that gentleman has every right to call Neeraj, and Neeraj doesn't avoid those calls. So I have seen him attending those calls personally. When at such level, generally people are behind glass doors and typically don't attend calls of that hierarchy. But yes, that customer focus I have seen. Without that, I think it's very difficult to go towards this bigger scale for anyone. So
Right. All right. So anyway, since we've got the introductions covered a little bit, the point of this episode today, or the one that I've envisioned at least, is to help the audience, the entire industry, whoever watches this today and the future, to understand what exactly the foundry industry is at the highest level, right? Probably how to get there, and exactly what it takes to stay there, right? To sustain there. So it should basically help somebody understand what it is, get there, and also sustain there. So that's probably where we're heading today. So I think let's just start. So to establish, what would you think is a medium or large foundry today? Like, how would you classify that in terms of tonnage or in terms of scale? What would that look like today?
Maybe 5,000 tons a month, maybe.
It's a pretty
3,000.
large size.
So
Yeah, that's quite
medium
large.
to large. So if you talk about medium, it will start to 1,000 tons, and a larger one will be at one place. It may be 5,000 tons. So that is the scale what it may vary.
Okay.
So 1,000 tons
to
is
5,000.
Yeah, 1,000 to 5,000.
Well, in my case, yeah, I would agree with that. About 5,000 to 6,000 tons manufactured at a single facility is a pretty large setup. A small setup would be, like Neeraj said, anywhere between 500 to 1,500 tons, and your 3,000 would be a kind of your midway through.
Right.
So I think if you would look at how many foundries in India do more than 5,000, it's probably a dozen at most.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's probably about a dozen,
That's
something in
all?
that range. That's all
Yeah.
that would do more than 5,000 a month. I think
So you
that's-
could probably
Yes.
name them on.
Like in a
Yeah,
single,
you can name them.
single place.
Okay. In a single place.
not just in a
as
single
group.
place. I mean, as an
Overall,
overall group.
As,
Overall,
a,
5,000.
as a group as
As a
well.
group overall.
Yes.
Wow. So we have a long way to go
Comparing China.
comparing China.
Comparing China, yes.
Yeah. Pushkash, I think mainly you as a supplier go on to many foundries for work visits or maybe for installations, commissioning. So what are you seeing in like these large foundries? Like what are they doing differently compared to the medium foundries? Like just observations that you're doing on the field.
The customer relationship of larger foundries is stronger than many other smaller foundries. The reason being, the OEMs are heavily dependent on them. So unless both go hand in hand, it's very difficult for either of them. So it's a win-win relationship, and that's why they keep on growing as well. And unless somebody, a smaller foundry wants to become big, unless they create that kind of reliance of between OEM and the supplier, it's very difficult to grow as well. So that's what I have seen the difference. So if we are just talking about quality or we are talking about production capability, these things are there, but that dependence is somewhere turns out to be a key factor in my opinion. Probably the opinions might differ.
Right. All right. So let's say somebody today starts a foundry, they obviously start at some scale, right? How would you see them rise to medium and large? Like, what are you all doing differently as per your observation over the years that have allowed you all to, surpass that large foundry benchmark?
So I think one of the things is professionalization, right? Building a team that has not just responsibility but also authority, right? There's only so much one person, however brilliant they are, can do. And so unless you have the right people with the right alignment doing the things, there's only so much you can grow into, right? So I think that's something that I think is critical. And if I look at the ones that go from the small to the medium to the large, because that's how we started, right? Back in 1985, our entire capacity was 100 tons a month, right? So to go, I think that's the journey that's helped us get there, right? And that's perhaps what my observation would be.
So for us, I can put it in two ways. First is a good customer base, strong customer base, and secondly, it will be good people and educated people who can work along to have good systems in place, which may give you a sustainable growth rather than only growing. You need to grow sustainably. So these are the two things what we look upon.
Okay. So I think both of you all mainly said the same thing roughly. What about you, Aditya?
I think, for a new foundry guy like any of us, I think we started with very humble backgrounds. We started with a manual molding line, then went to a jolt squeeze. And then my grandfather was kind of pushed to buy a high pressure molding line then. And he just,
I heard about this story.
Yeah.
It was KW, right?
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned it on a podcast, by the way.
So he just took a leap of faith. I remember I see photos of them commissioning the line with no cranes that time. And we kind of fell into our laps, and then we just went with it. And, things progressed. Like mainly Kolhapur as a belt was more Mahindra and Tata Motor centric then. Still is dependent on. Then we had foreign OEs come into India, and that's how I think the Maharashtra belt and in and around India grew.
What basically Deepak and Neeraj talked about, what like building the team, that was like the foundational part to help you sustain today, right? Especially Pushkar, as you mentioned, you're generation 3 today, right? So your entire family has seen like Kolhapur growing.
Yeah.
Like, so what are your earliest memories of Ghatge Patil and Zanvar Group? Like, what do you remember?
Well, after education, I came back here when I was 23 years old. So I know for sure my mother's brother, that's like my mama, worked at Aditya's.
Okay, was it? Did you know that?
I didn't.
Okay,
I
that's
used
good.
to work there, I think. Well, it has been a matter of pride for a lot of people to work in Ghatge Patil Industries, and even Menon for that matter, or even at Neeraj's place. And people talk about it very proudly. And where does he work? Oh, he works. Oh, Zanvar Sahab ke saath. Fantastic. So that kind of legacy these people have built.
Right.
And before even I knew any of these guys, I knew it from other people that people like to be working here. So it was actually fun after meeting.
So this was 20 years ago, oddly.
This
You said age of 22, roughly.
Yeah,
Right.
20 years ago.
Right. That's great to hear.
Are you trying to back calculate his age or something?
He told me he was 42 actually.
He already knows. So
I guess 45, but he
Yeah,
corrected
he
me.
is 45.
no.
You are 1 year elder to me, boss. So
Anyway, this is a good
Let's not get into that calculation.
Pushkar just lying on his resume.
I'm better at math. Okay. So
All right. So anyway, we spoke about medium and large foundries, but this does not take into account, like, all of you all are cast iron people or ferrous people. I would categorize you all. We're not taking into account aluminium and maybe today copper-based foundries also. Like, there are large foundries also in those domains. So I don't know if we are able to categorize what a large foundry in those domains would look like, or those grades. Any experience, Deepak?
I'm probably not the right person to ask this question to. I can just tell you, what I see in the industry. But obviously over the years, Sundaram Clayton has done really well. More recently, I think Craftsman has grown quite aggressively as well, both organically and inorganically. So I think there's a lot of opportunities that are there in aluminum and other lighter metals that are very much there, right? If you look at the World Foundry Organization puts out their annual how much tonnage was done in each of these categories by each country. India is far behind when you look at the percentage of aluminum that we do, right? So there might be a great opportunity for growth, but from our perspective, I think there's a great opportunity for growth even in ferrous, right? So I don't see the point of taking our focus away from what we do best.
Yeah, because aluminium lobbies are always pro aluminium, EVs, and this and that. But it's very nice to see you saying that okay, there's a big opportunity even in ferrous. So that's really something I think you're doing well for the community. People will probably be happy, and will go back, and instead of thinking about aluminium, they'll go and they'll focus on their ferrous foundries even more.
So the opportunity, what you see, like Deepak said, in ferrous, if you see, China is 4 to 5 times bigger than India. And now all people talking about China plus one, even if 20% of capacity comes to India, everyone sitting in this room have to double up their capacities to get up to the requirement. So that is the opportunity what is there in front of us. Now it is up to us to develop a good organization and be a we need to level up our game so that we are present in all the sectors. And now US is dominating, Europe is dominating, but there are many other countries which we may have to target
in the future.
Yeah.
Right, like towards the Southeast Asia.
Southeast Asia.
So Neeraj, have you actually come across this China plus one policy with buyers or?
Yeah. China plus one policy means we had ambassador from a country at our place and they were evaluating all these things. So that is what they told, that they are seriously thinking China plus one is here to stay, because we also have our own doubts. Like, this is a policy matter. If US changes its policy, what are we going to do if we invest? But now they are seriously thinking that yes, they need to have some substitute to China. Okay, we can't get rid of China, but India can be a good substitute to China for ferrous casting at least. So,
Right. I think, Aditya, you've gone to a side of assemblies. I think that's something that Ghatge Patil is focusing on today. So what is that strategic idea about?
So for us, since my granddad started, that time the foundry business used to be extremely cyclic. Okay, so you would have like peaks and then you would really have the bad days coming. And then during his time, he just thought that, having a division that could balance out the foundry when the foundry is not performing. That's how we started with our motion control division. My dad came back from the States. He added the oil and gas angle when he came back from the States. So now we've been in the oil and gas for about 33 odd years. We have a facility in the States and in Canada right now. But that, during, when the recession kind of comes in, normally the other division is up there and the foundry is not performing. And when the foundry is performing, but in the last 4-5 years, both divisions are fairly up there. But the idea was to balance out the business when, the foundry is, because the overheads on the foundry are large, to sustain that, you need something. So that was our entire idea. And then we've grown on various products within that. So we used to make, Bharat Atmos used to be our main client, but then now we have many clients in India for oil and gas, the Middle East, North America, South America. But we work on very it's project driven, so it's not like a year's schedules, but we've been doing it for a long time, so we're used to it.
Okay, so that's not like a de-risking sort of approach.
It is kind of a de-risking approach.
Okay.
But like I said, on the foundry, when you expand, the capital is very high in terms of capex putting in, and especially if you want to automate nowadays, it's not cheap by any means.
Right.
So the product division, margins are a little better than this, so that kind of helps support the capex for the other division.
Right. Pushkash, I think you mentioned you take a lot of travel to the States, and mainly your equipment market is mainly in the US, right? So talking about large foundries, we're talking about China and India. Like, what are you seeing US foundries doing? Because you're working with some very large foundries over there. What are they doing differently compared to India? How are they growing?
My observation is the foundries in US do pretty good castings because they have really great raw materials. So if you talk about equipment, they have age-old equipment, fairly well maintained. So yeah, the industry is surviving on that. Now this onshoring is coming up a little bit, but the changes are not yet very evident. Frankly, the quality of raw material is good, so the foundries out there are doing a good job. That's
Okay.
what
It
my
could also be the
observation
interest rates, possibly.
Sorry?
The interest rates, because the interest rates are a lot lower. Finance is a lot lower in the States.
That gap has narrowed, to be
Okay.
fair.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I would say that the interest rate differential that you saw between India and the US a decade ago, where US was basically at like almost zero.
Mr. Mangesh Patil has just joined us. Tell us a little bit about Maurya Industries and how it came to where it is today, and so just we can be on the same page roughly.
Maurya Industries is a very young company. We have stalwarts here. We have someone who is 75 years old, not Aditya, but his company.
Okay.
Someone with like 50 years of experience. And that too, you too 50 years. We are just 20 years old. I'm a first generation entrepreneur.
Right.
I come from all different background. I don't come from an industry background. My father was an IAS officer. He wanted me to get into IAS. I failed 3 times grandly. Had nothing to do.
Okay.
Was probably supposed to be kicked out of the house. And unfortunately, I came into this industry with a single CNC machine. So we were machining people initially.
Right.
We used to buy castings later. And now we are back as a part of backward integration. We are into Foundry as well. So it's Foundry plus machining.
Okay. So you started at the top and then you backward integrated into Foundry.
Yes.
Okay. That's
When
amazing.
his factory was being built, those days we used to meet for a tea at his factory when the construction was going on.
Just a tea.
Yeah, just the tea.
Just a tea.
That's amazing.
I knew him before entering the industry, basically.
I've been to your machine shop in 22, also with Neeraj's place. I think during WestCon, you all very graciously allowed IF to take a work visit.
exactly.
Yeah, so I was not doing any of this at that time, but I was really amazed at the assemblies and everything you were doing, and the place is so well organized. Machine, crazy number of machines, but there were clear walkways and everything was very, very well organized. It was probably the first big machine shop I had seen.
So again, actually, I was telling Deepak that we should go to his place tomorrow because anything that the gentleman does has a lot of taste and you can see that discipline of taste.
Right.
You can clearly see it there. So
Right.
yeah, we should actually do that tomorrow. What do you think?
Why not?
That's right. Pushkaraj has invited everybody to visit.
We are open to all.
All right. So basically, we were just discussing about the gap between small, medium, and large foundries. How medium and small foundries can rise up to the levels that you all guys are, right? And maybe what hurdles they come along the way. So one of the hurdles was finance, which we were just discussing. So I think Mr. Deepak Reddy was talking about the difference between the arbitrage between US finance and Indian finance and how it is narrowed, right? So I think let's just pick it back.
Sure. So I think the gap that you saw in the interest rates, it was really free money in the US, right? And we were paying fairly high. I think that gap has come down, narrowed quite significantly, right? I think if you look at it today, probably the interest rate differential is like a 2-3%, right? Not like a 7-8% that it may have been, right? Before.
True.
And so I think that's no longer a bottleneck, so to speak, in this case.
All right.
It's not probably about being a bottleneck. It has become a bottleneck for the US companies now, which was already a bottleneck for us.
Yeah.
So the bottleneck has evened out kind of.
So the other thing that happened in the US, right? There's a lot of big players in the US that have been acquired by private equity, right? And one of the things that when a private equity acquisition happens is they like to show better returns, right? Because that's how they get the churn and that's how they get the returns for their investors. So one of the things they like to do is to take a lot of debt, right? So you have a better return on equity. So now this impact of interest rates going up means that strategy doesn't work as well, right? At least that's my view on it over there.
It's a very interesting dynamic. Like, can you talk a little bit more about this? Because this is really interesting.
The private equity part of it, or the
how the interest rate thing. So, as I understand it, since the interest rates were not great, private equities would buy these groups.
Not just Foundry, right? Any industry.
Any industry, and that profit was being so.
So they would probably fund maybe 75-80% of that money would come from debt. So they would put in only 25%, right?
Okay.
And they were paying probably a 2%, 3% kind of a interest rate on this 75%. So whatever the levering up did was basically give them a great return on equity, right? That's what they were doing, right? Now they actually have to do like real operational improvements and all of that to get return. But you could actually do a lot of financial engineering and get a great return out of it, right? As a pure investor.
So it was the leveraging that they were doing.
I think this is LBO, leverage buyout.
It need not necessarily be a leverage buyout, right? It could even be as a private equity coming in, you buy the equity and then you finance
so
most
after
of
they
it.
paid off the earlier stakeholders.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Right. All right. So anyway, wrapping up this topic, right? All of y'all guys at some point have gone from small, medium to large today, right? What do you say today is that one key point, right? We'll go around the table. That one key point today that you could maybe advise the audience, which has allowed you to go to that position fairly quickly.
I think it's more about professionalization and relying on people, not just giving them responsibility, but giving them authority, right? I think I mentioned that earlier, but I'll stick to that point.
Right. What about you, Mangesh?
Three things which are very much necessary to establish it. Like, one, you should have a good customer base. One, you should have a good facility. And third is good team. Once you have all these three pillars intact, scaling up, not scaling up is absolutely wrong. You have to scale up. These three pillars, if you are they are strong enough, you have to scale up, and you can.
So basically, it's a given.
You have
It's
to
almost
leverage.
guaranteed.
You have to leverage.
Right. I think this is also what Neeraj said earlier. So I think can we call this round like professionalism,
Customer relationship.
customer relationship, and I think you also said something else.
Good setup.
Facility.
Good
Facility. Okay, so this round goes to those three, and if anybody is trying to go from small, medium to large, build a team, get better customers, have a good facility. That's it.
I heard it quickly in your question.
Right.
At the end of the question, you said,
I'll take that back. I don't think anything was quick enough. I think Mangesh Patil has grown the fastest here. Like from where he is as a first generation to in last 20 years, that is phenomenal growth. So I think you can use quickly when I'm asking him, and probably he answered that.
It is a growth curve which will happen over the period of time anyway. So
Yes.
that.
Right. All right. So let's talk about customers. All of you guys in automotive, transportation, mobility is like what? So what is your product
Everything.
range?
Anybody who needs a metal product
Okay, but primarily like your largest share of market is
is vehicles, like
vehicles. Okay.
highway.
So where do you all guys get customers today? Like how does it happen? Do you all do a lot of outbound? Is it visiting very big facilities? Is it people approaching you all for business? How easy is it to grab customers today in the market you all guys are in?
I think today with the benchmark, all our foreign customers have pretty high standard of expectation out of each facility coming in. In our case, I would say at least for GPI, John Deere always had a benchmark that they saw the foundry by, but they also spend a lot of time at our facilities trying to give us exposure to benchmark with other foundries and upgrade ourselves. So I think if you have the same mentality of the customer to improve, that kind of puts you in a phase of continuous improvement. And with them, in our case, we've been supported equally by our customer to grow. So that kind of takes away the fear of kind of investment and all of that. And I've always stuck to their word on how they would perform. And we've had a relation of over 23 years with them. At one point, our largest customer, our new facility which came in 2014, John Deere was again a great contributor to that. We were also talking to General Motors that time.
Right.
Unfortunately, General Motors quit India then. But since then, the tractor industry as a whole, you have Escorts, Kubota that's come in. They have also grown. International tractors have grown. So all these customers are now exporting out of India also. So a lot of equipment, earlier they would do the smaller size tractors in India. The largest stuff would be done in Europe or in America. But now over the last 5-6 years, their premium product castings are also getting sourced out of.
So they're trusting Indian foundries a lot more.
I would say we are probably, you spoke about America, if we would benchmark an American foundry kind of, I would look at it differently. Maybe now the place to benchmark is China or India because we have equally good or better facilities, I would say. Because they have not invested in this game for a long period. They've been buying product out. And we've been investing quite heavily as an industry for the last 15-20 years in this.
Right. So what about you, Mr. Reddy? What do you feel?
Maybe you can repeat the question yet again, right? I want to make sure I
So
try to get it
actually-
from a different angle than what Aditya did, right? So I'm going to try to find a different angle.
So let's just continue where Aditya left off. Like,
Okay.
do you think today the US has lagged behind in terms of infrastructure compared to India and of course China, but compared to India?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that statement. And I also agree with the statement Pushkaraj made earlier, right? Which is that their quality of raw materials is so good that they've not really focused so much on process. And at the same time, I would also agree with the statement that they've not invested heavily, or probably over the last 3 decades, right?
Okay.
I think the number of foundries in the US has come down quite drastically since the mid 90s is roughly where it peaked, right? So over the last 30 years, there have been a lot of consolidations and closures. I think one of the things the US foundry market has done well is through consolidation, they've managed to keep capacities tight and therefore kept profitability, right? This is what they've been largely able to do over the last 2 or 3 decades. Now, I think and I think that's what also opens the door for all of us here to actually go into the US market and actually win business and do well, right? And even compete, right? So we've had to fine tune our processes to a much, much higher level because the quality of the raw materials, whether we talk about sand or even the
You're
Indian
compensating
bentonite you
for all
get,
those.
we're compensating for all of that through process, right? And you'll see some of the best state-of-the-art equipment in India and China. And I would argue you'll see the best foundry mines in India, right? And not in China, right? So I think we should become the benchmark. Certainly, I think we have the opportunity to do so. And I think that's something we should all strive for.
All right.
So our story was also similar. So when we decided to set up a new plant in 2016, so I decided to go to Europe. My brother decided to go to US and China. So when I came from Europe, I was absolutely disappointed because those people have not invested anything in technology. They are just running their plants. But on the contrary, when I heard from my brother about Chinese industry, they have invested huge. They are producing 50,000 tons in one location, all these kind of things. So I was astonished. So that is the kind of thing what China has done. So after 2016, in Indian industry also, as Deepak mentioned, we have got good foundry men, but now we are also ready to invest, and government is also supporting. On the interest rates, there are various schemes that are going on state-wise. So where you can have some less interest rates because finance and interest rate may not be a hurdle going ahead if you have got good technology and good people. The problem will be good skilled people, availability of good skilled people. That is going to be a big problem. So for that, you need to adopt good technology only. So where you can compensate against a good skilled labor workforce.
Right.
So that is a problem that we may see.
Right. So basically, this round, Mr. Mangesh, can you round up this round by answering like where do people from the small, medium scale foundries like find customers? Like how do you find customers in those early stages? Like because you've pretty much climbed that journey.
See, one thing about the US we were talking about, it's like developed countries have stopped manufacturing. Like they have stopped putting up new facilities since last 30-40 years due to like the green gases and everything related to sustainability and everything. And so entire this palladium has shifted to developing countries. So like China and India are moreover into investments. First China came in, and then India came in. And this again would stay here for, let's say, 10, 20, 30 years. After that, it would be shifted to, let's say, underdeveloped countries. And the cost of manufacturing in US is like getting huge. So it's getting out of hand.
So that's the opportunity.
Yeah, that's a big opportunity for India and China.
But how do like foundries grab that opportunity? Like how is it available to the smaller classes of foundries, or is it like completely closed? What do you all guys feel?
I think there's enough business in each category of castings today.
Yes.
I would not say like somebody making a particular weight category has more opportunity than the other person. So the amount of work that is coming into India in every field, you have small, medium, large, and I would say the demand for the small and medium casting is pretty high right now because we get a lot of inquiries from our customers. We are turning down castings below 25 kgs, and it's not necessarily that when you make a larger casting, you're making something more complicated. Making a smaller part is probably more tougher than making a larger part, I would say, because the intricacy goes down. You have less, high runs. and the product becomes pretty like ZF smaller casting are pretty difficult in terms of production. So I think there's enough work for everybody on the table. In the way we do it is we focus on a certain category and then grow in it.
So what you're saying is put up a foundry today and there's
No,
a
not
business
just put
available.
up a foundry.
No.
Put up a good technologically driven foundry.
Okay.
Then only customer will come to you. Otherwise, then there are different challenges. If you have got good technology in place, then only customer will entertain you. Otherwise, it is difficult to get job if
Right.
you don't have technology.
In this field, you won't have a walk-in customer kind of. So it's like, and it won't be the other way around that the customer asks you for something, and then you put up a facility in the initial stage. Of course, in later stage it happens, but initial stage you have to have a good facility. You need to establish yourself, maybe with local guys, and then grow ahead.
Okay.
Like then you guys tend to showcase your facilities, your
That will
strength.
attract them.
Yeah, then that would attract the customer, larger size customer. So you initially target C size customers, then you target B category customers, and then finally you target A category customers.
Okay.
It's like the ladder kind of.
So maybe rather than giving Gyan, I'll give a real example of what we did just a few months ago, right? We're trying to break into this new Italian customer for the first time. And I was visiting them, they were giving me a tour of the plant. And the first question that I asked, right, the very first question was, which casting do you have a problem with, right? So if I can, the entry is to find somebody's pain point and solve it, right? All the other stuff is nice to have, right? Okay, I'm getting some cost saving, whatever it is, right? But if there's real problem that you are able to solve, that's how you build a great relationship, right? And that's how you jumpstart one, right? Because that's when the guy stops thinking, should I not? He's like, oh, this is a problem. This guy can solve it. Just, let him solve it if he thinks he can, right? I think that's,
I think everybody has started there when they have a new customer. Like, give me your biggest pain point, something you're not able to, like a broken supply chain sort of scenario.
Deepak, I think that's also a lot about trust. So if that guy has been in touch with you for some time and trusts you that it's okay to divulge what problem he has, because many times customers are not ready to divulge if they have a problem, because it's more like a bluebird kind of a scenario that he has a problem, you have a solution. It's a bluebird.
I don't necessarily agree with that, right? Because I think his goal is to get a solution to his problem, right? So I think they can be generally I've found at least that if there's a problem, they gravitate pretty quickly towards opening up on it, right? Saying, can you supply this part, right? They are also eagerly looking for a solution if they have a problem, right?
So what had happened similar to us is in 2000, John Deere had just entered in India, and my grandfather used to do marketing that time. So he used to go every month. He used to visit twice in their office. He was pretty old. So one day, Mr. Rohit Sharma was that time the purchasing head. He just thought this old guy is coming every day, sitting, let us give him one chance. So they gave us a difficult component of 1 kg. It was we had to supply it to France. So he just told, if you prove this, Mr. Zanvar, we will be aligning with you. And that is how our growth story started. So on the contrary, they just test you also that, are you really capable of doing what you are saying? So that is also one thing what they see. Right. So that is how we grew with John Deere.
Right. That's your example in play.
No, very similar example, even how we started, right? Our very first customer back in 1985 was Ashok Leyland, right? And back in 1984, my father had visited them, hoping to get a business. And, the purchasing director at the time, Mr. Joy Joseph, just got off the phone with, the production foreman, basically saying that, they're not able to make trucks because some casting, there was some problem, right? So when he walks into the room, the guy says, you think you can make castings? Why don't you try making this one? Now, if you can do it, I'll give you business, right? And a week later, right, this is before CAD/CAM, any of this stuff existed. He just took a casting back and then brought a freshly made casting within a week, right, to them. And then that very first casting turned out, he gave it to the production foreman, machined it. It was okay by good luck. And of course, a lot of hard work, but good luck definitely plays a factor there. The very first casting was okay. And that's how we got our first customer, right? So it's very much the same story of, perseverance for sure. And then, delivering when you get a challenge put to you, right? Not giving up.
That's amazing. So definitely this round, like the audience has definitely won here. If you are struggling to get business, if you want new customers, go out there and solve a difficult problem for whoever you're trying to pitch. I think use that as like an entry point into OEM that you're trying to get, or any customer for that. Like as Mr. Mangesh said, C, I think C, B, and then A. Right? So start with the C levels, solve a problem, and then slowly rise up. Right?
So I think there is a caveat here. We must understand that
That's for the newcomer, rather.
For newcomer.
yes, all of the gentlemen come from the most challenging foundry business that there could be, which is they are catering to mobility segment, on-road, off-road. That's the most challenging segment that you can have in terms of quality, delivery schedule adherence, and hard to approach customers. At some point of time, some time back, you could actually walk into Mahindra plant and meet people. Nowadays, you can no more do that. So these are the customers which are very difficult to approach. So they are in that segment already. So for a newcomer, it would be very difficult to set up such a relationship with a customer. So essentially, whenever somebody is starting in this domain, they have to start being tier 2 or tier 3 and work their way upwards. So that way has become longer. So essentially, if somebody wants to go to the scale that that is with the gentleman here, it would probably take longer. That's what my estimation is. What do you think?
It's the same thing. Tier 2, Tier 3 is like C category, B category, and then A.
Then
You cannot approach the A directly. If you are a newcomer,
Huh.
for established players, yes, they can approach A category directly now.
So tier 1, tier 2, so everybody takes their own profit. Finally, the
Yeah.
tier 3 will probably
See,
have.
it's your learning
It's
phase.
the hard yards.
It's-
Yeah, it's the
That-
hard
that-
yards.
Unfortunately, that's the hard yards.
Yeah.
that are there.
It's a learning phase. It's not money making phase.
Huh.
You have to establish yourself at that time.
Right.
It is hard business. It's cutthroat. It's hard.
Has any of you all considered a small level acquisition as an entry point to like a vendor code? Has any of you all like are you using that as a strategy, maybe to gain a new customer?
Not in our case, at least.
In
Not
this,
in our
at
case.
this
I mean,
stage,
y'all
it
are,
is
y'all
not
are,
needed
but
now.
would you suggest
At
that
early
to-
stage, that might work as well.
Okay, like a very small.
That is
level
one of
foundry.
the good thing. If someone has got good money and you can acquire only for customer, that's a good thing.
to start into, right?
Yeah, to start.
All right. Like because you also mentioned like the government is also supporting with a lot of finance, right? Do you think that opportunity will be possible where you can make a small acquisition, get started from level 2 instead of starting with 1, and then maybe learn the ropes like Mr. Aditya also said about the high pressure line and being forced into forced to change. So maybe that growth will come later on. Do you think that's possible?
The caveat here is acquisition finance is a little different from capex finance, right? It's banks cannot actually lend to you for the purpose of an acquisition, right? So you'll need to go to an NBFC or you'll need to go to some other private credit where the interest rates are higher. So instead of talking about anywhere from 7 to 10%, suddenly you're talking about a 15% interest rate. So it's a very different animal.
And those margins are not easy to make.
Yeah. So.
Right. All right. So anyway, you follow what Mr. Mangesh says. Go to C, B, and A, and obviously look for the most problem part. I think this round is concluded. Right. All right. So we'll get into if we can maybe speed up somebody's growth. Like I think finding customers and then going into a phase of expansion, finding new customers, going into another phase of expansion. Is there something that can speed up the cycle?
Highly unlikely.
It's the hard yards, I think, right? Sometimes you have to do the hard yards.
Right.
I'll just give an example, right? So the US, when we started with a new customer, this was probably back in 2016. We started and they gave us one product, which was their most complicated product that they had. Right? So obviously they were having problems. Their cost-benefit analysis, that was the highest benefit they could get based on initial quotations. And they said, look, if you guys are able to do this, we are confident you'll be able to do anything, right? And they said, look, but we can't rely on you, right? So we'll give you like a 30% share of business to start with, right? That particular business, a few years later is now a 100% share of business that we have. There's no backup for this customer has, right? They're fully reliant on us. The next business they gave us at an 80% share of business. And then they gave us a redesign at 100%, and then a new product launch at 100, right? So it takes time to earn trust. It's easy to lose it, but it takes time to earn trust, right? So I don't think there's necessarily a shortcut. Sometimes you just have to do those hard yards.
Yes. Right. All right.
So the sales cycle can be squeezed, possibly, But the iterative cycle of gaining trust, it's very difficult to compress that. So there's no option to it.
Right. All right. So since we are talking about we've cleared customers, we've cleared what setup to do to use, how to get customers. Let's talk about finance, right? If I'm a new person coming into Foundry industry today, should I even be looking at Foundry? Like, do I have enough money to put up one? And also, how can I get that money easily?
So Foundry, if you see, it is only one-time capital-intensive industry. Foundry plus machining is a huge capital-intensive industry. So Foundry you can easily get into, but scaling up and then now customers' requirement is you need to have both casting plus machining. You can't be only a casting player and getting machined it from outside. So you need to manage your finances pretty well to get into Foundry. So it's not that easy to get immediately into Foundry.
I would say, you put a risk assessment, kind of do a self risk assessment.
SWOT
because
analysis or
yeah, because the capex is high, you might jump into this thinking the market is at a boom. But running foundry operations,
is
rejections can happen with multiple factors and wipe away a large chunk of your earnings. It could be as simple as the weather change, temperature changing, affecting a lot of your everyday, taking away a lot of your margins. So anybody wants to get into it, I would advise it, go work with somebody, see the pain of, it looks nice on the front of it. You look at a facility, you see large sheds, you think everything is dandy, but it's not really like it looks. Get a little bit of experience and then decide you want to take baby steps and then kind of expand into it, or probably start with machining first and then go into the foundry. Like what Mangesh has done.
So Foundry is a working capital intensive game. So you have to get into the skin of it to understand all those things.
Correct. So should even newcomers be looking at Foundry? Like, let's say maybe somebody has 3-5 year experience working with an Nelcast, like, and they say, okay, I would like to like have my own business someday. Like, finance aside, should they even be doing that?
See, I love where the foundry industry in India is, right? I think we are at a cusp of being a major player in the global stage, right? So it's a great market, great opportunity to be in this industry at this time, right? Now, that being said, one of the things about running a foundry and starting up a foundry is you actually don't start making money the day you turn on the machine and pour out your first castings, right? There is a cycle that it takes you to actually win enough business. Even if you're somebody who's a seasoned professional who already has some plants that are running, every new line is a little bit different, right? It takes a little bit of time to kind of, get it stabilized, get your business in, get your customer approvals, and after that, get your rejections under control before you actually start. So it's not just the money you put into the foundry to start it, it's also the money that you need to kind of sustain you through that phase of it, right? And I think a lot of people sort of forget that. And even for people like us who've been in the industry, sometimes it takes longer than we think, right? And the ability to sustain things going wrong, I think, is important, right? So the risk analysis of what if it takes me longer, what if I don't get this much business, a lot of these questions, have to be answered. And there is, I think, a lot of people who work in foundry get into the technical part of it really well, right? But they don't really understand what's happening in the background on the finance, right? If you've spent 3 years, 5 years on the foundry shop floor and you've done really well, doesn't necessarily mean you know what it takes to run a foundry, right? And how you manage finances, how you manage working capital, right. How do you, go talk to a bank and get a loan, right? And how do you optimize the kind of interest rates that you're paying? All of these things, right? These are, different skills that you need to have, right? So I think there's definitely a bigger challenge there. But that being said, it's a great industry, right? So if you can make it.
Back to Mangesh. I think, Mangesh, you have backward integrated into Foundry. So going back to Deepak's point, right? How fast or how long did it take you to actually stabilize the Foundry as an independent profit center? Like, because he said they're loss-making business for an X period. Like, how long did it actually take you to
It took a pretty long time actually to stabilize.
How many years exactly?
At least 3 years.
Okay.
At least 3 years. Because we were new into the foundry again. And then we were buying huge castings from outside. But again, we did not want to pull those castings inside. And this foundry was not meant to pull in the casting. That we had wonderful suppliers. We did not want to disturb them. And our intention was not to pull them and mint some money out of it.
Right.
But to approach A size customers, A category customers, as I said, who wanted a captive foundry for a
So you
machining
use it like a
unit.
showcase sort of thing.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So it had to be a wonderful foundry, of course, presentable foundry, and plus then you start, and we started the process from there itself. We did not pull in the casting that we had been buying from our suppliers,
Right.
but then we started showcasing the foundry to large size customers, and then getting them on board, and then start developing their parts, and then actually starting supplying them. It takes a pretty long time.
What about the rejection? Like, was that a hurdle that you had to go through?
See, it's part and parcel. Everything happens. Every abnormal things happen when you get into this business. But again, you get into any other field, not only foundry, in any other business. Someone is doing good, someone is doing bad. It is not the business is bad. It is the way you adopt practices is what matters. So you need to have right people at right place and have to have the best practices. Of course, you have to succeed.
Right. So it's like it's a teething cycle to go
Ian,
through.
actually, if there are no rejections, I have no business. So, so that's how
That is never going to happen.
So the rejections feed me. I always remember that.
We ended this round. I think the audience has learned a lot. Let's say I gave all of you like 1 crore of rupees. What foundry would you start? Where would you start it?
How much?
Right, 1 crore. Is that enough? Or you okay? Maybe add a 0.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about the audience don't have 10 crores. Let's just start with 1 crore. Okay, I give you 1 crore. Where do you start a foundry? What foundry do you start? Right, and walk me through that process of getting it to market and getting started.
Once you
I would stick to, first of all, I would stick to a ferrous foundry. I would not go into the non-ferrous side of it. Once year in today's world, I don't think you
It's
can
hard.
do.
It's hard.
It couldn't do much.
You won't get a building with that price.
Yeah, you won't even get a piece of
You won't even get land.
Pushkaraj will charge us more than that. Only for the testing equipments.
We can say this because he's not here.
yes.
He'll find this out later on. All right. So, what would you say is the reasonable capital to start one? Deepak, I think since you had an opinion with the 1 CR, maybe add a few numbers to that.
I'd say, again, depending on the type of castings you're doing, you want to do between 30 to 50 is the bare minimum, right? Is what I would.
For a ferrous foundry.
If you want automated kind of a thing, right? You want,
But
if
see,
you
you're-
eventually want to get to class A customers,
Yes,
that is the
yes.
absolute bare minimum, I
Yes.
think.
See, you can enter a foundry with like 5 crores, 10 crores or something, but
Yeah.
that won't work. You would have to ultimately supply to these local customers.
And you don't think there's a growth path away
No,
from
no,
that?
not
Or
at all. Not
it's
at
too
all.
far away.
No, that's too far away.
Right.
That's too far away.
So today, if I gave you 1 CR, you will just do something else with it.
I
You
can
won't
sell
start a
that.
foundry.
So
I
generally,
can supply castings to them.
So generally, how I see it is because now what has happened initially it was all European and European people dominating for our foundry equipments, but now Chinese people have also come into picture, and many people around have started installing low cost high pressure molding lines, which is a substitute to a joule squeeze line. So that may be a good entry purpose line, but going ahead, we need to have a good technologically driven line only. But to start with, if anyone is more interested to have a high pressure molding line, they can start with the Chinese line. Many people in Kolhapur, they have gone up significantly. This is a substitute to semi-automated to automated line. So it may be ranging roughly around 7 to 8 CR. Overall plant may fit in the budget of 15 CR, which may contribute to 700 to 800 tons per month. But if you have to talk about A-level customers, you need to have a good...
That's the bare minimum.
Yeah. So,
All right.
But in that category, the amount of competition, like he's saying in these 15 crore lines, in Bombay, I was talking to a couple of people in Inmex and asking the guy how many lines has he sold. He had sold 21 lines in Kolhapur. So the level of competition also to grab those customers very high.
Okay. Now it's a very dangerous field.
no, and it is also requirement because you are not going to get labor.
Right.
Semi-automated is a labor-intensive thing. If you need to run your lines. Many people are going for a brownfield project. It may not be a greenfield project. It may be a brownfield project only to leverage the labor cost. So that may be one of the purpose.
I think maybe something they would probably be better off doing something that Mr. Mangesh did, which is get the machining capacity first, outsource the castings, right, and supply the end customer, and then slowly backward integrate. Is that a route that all of you would agree on?
I think in terms of risk, that's a easier place to start with.
Because
to
once a year
understand.
you'll get 3-4 CNCs.
But now customer will never entertain because it
yes.
was in past where there were where machining people were less.
Okay.
But now with Foundry, machining is mandatory. So
Yes.
and machining you can invest and you can get great people around. So now that model may exist for some people, but it may not be the only model. So you need to think in a different for a different ball game.
So I think if you're really small and starting up, you need to find a niche, right? A niche that none of us want to do. And let's say majority of the foundries don't want to do, right? You need to find something that makes you unique. If otherwise you're just in that same rat race, right? And you're never making enough money to invest and move up from let's say a class C or whatever to a B to an A, right? You'll never make enough money, right? So actually the former IIF president, Mr. Krishna Samraj, used to make this statement that, you know, you'll be in a position where the customers will have you in the ICU, right? So you'll never get good enough to get discharged, but you'll also not die, right? You'll end up just stuck on in the ICU on life support, right? So we don't want you definitely don't want to be in that stage, right?
All right.
So there has to be something where you can at least make a little bit of money, just so that you can go from, let's say, a level 1 to a level 2 in terms of your equipment, and then keep growing, right? That's how you move up the ladder. That's how you make some money and reinvest it.
I would probably suggest that they look at the non-ferrous side, because that needs a lot less capex compared to the ferrous side. Like, you all need to have a lot of equipment just to make one casting. Non-ferrous side, you can just dig a hole in the ground. You have a fired furnace there. You find a complicated casting, and you're already in your market.
But to understand that metal is a different ball game, the rejection.
Right. It's a big challenge. The rejection is the main challenge.
It might, like I said, it looks easy. Like you would see maybe
Less capital
HPDC foundry, and you'd say, there's a robo coming, pouring in the casting, and it just pops out. But the amount of knowledge you need to make that die, run it in a certain way. Like I said, each area has its experience that you need to make sure you can perform.
All right. So let's just conclude this round with debt versus internal accruals. Like, are we on the same? Let's say we can come on the same page. Like, would you prefer to finance an expansion through debt, or like capital that you saved up? What would you suggest to someone that's growing small, mid-size?
If you have capital, invest it, right? If you need it, because I think Neeraj as well as Aditya have said, this is a step game, right? So in a foundry, you're making a step investment, right? So you might make one big investment, and then for the next 4-5 years there, you make only small investments, right?
Okay, so that's how you'll see it.
That. So when you're making that step investment, if you don't have the accruals, debt is a perfectly fine option, right? You just have to make sure that you can handle that debt even if things go wrong, right? That's a little bit of scenario planning, scenario analysis has to be done.
Right. What about you guys?
So according to us, means whatever you earn, this is the time where you reinvest and upgrade your game, because this is the right time where you can scale up your game immediately without much efforts.
You mean us as in this period that's going on?
This decade. Largely, if you think about this decade, ferrous casting will have a good future. So we are investing any margins in the game. We are not taking out money from the business. So that is what we are going to do, and this is the right time according to us.
Right.
Like I said, Mr. Reddy said, if you want to be aggressive and you cannot finance it, today getting on debt is not a problem, in the sense banks financing you. Knowing that your customers with you, and you know that you have a ROI cycle that works out for you guys with a little bit of risk kind of calculated into it. Today is a great period. Certain times as a foundry, we are pushed to invest. There could be a shortage of labor into certain areas, but that's something you got to live with.
On a lighter note, I just want to add one thing on a much lighter note. I would absolutely love for 1 year where I can do zero capex and just rake the money in, right? I would love to have 1 year like that just for fun, right? It's not going to happen, right? I don't see it happening, but it's a dream, right? That someday it will happen.
Yeah, foundry machining business is like every now and then you are investing.
It's always somebody like Pushkaraj who invents something new, and then a new technology.
You have to keep investing.
It's like
you cannot say no to it. It's a no entry kind of.
Right.
One way kind of, like you cannot have a U-turn.
Right.
There.
But I think what Mr. Reddy also said was really important. You said step game, right? I think which you pointed out to Neeraj. So I think you all prefer to make your investments or upgrades in terms of like
No,
upgrade the whole
Foundry
plant.
is a step game. Machining is not.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, foundry is one. You put up a foundry. It's a processing plant. So all money at one time and all equipments at one time, and then you start to fill in the capacity. So it takes 3-4 years to
Okay.
get to the fullest. So it's like investment on day one. But machining, it's like one component you develop, the machining single machine you buy, then it starts.
Use that to fund the
It's
next
like
one.
plug and play kind of.
Right.
So machining is more easier. Like
Right.
the day you get the machine, it starts running for 24/7. Here the foundry is not. So here it's a step game with the foundry, but machining it's not. As and when kind of.
Right. All right. Okay. So the last leg of teaching the audience, leadership, talent, right? Where do you all today go for talent? Like, what is the pool you all draw from? Is it like, do you all poach each other's talent? Like, is that also allowed? I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but they're sitting nearby.
No, I think, us all being in the same area, okay, people do jump from foundry to foundry.
So it has happened.
No, it does happen.
It'll happen, yeah.
It's
It
a
happens.
natural thing. I don't
Right.
take it personally as somebody picking up yoga or something.
Right.
It does
So where do you all
happen.
actively draw talent from? Like, where does it come from?
I would say at the moment there is a lack of talent in terms of experience.
Right.
I don't think the newer generation sees the foundry as a very
Promising.
appealing job. Like, you become an engineer from a good university or a college. I don't think his first thought is that I want to go sit in a foundry and run a high pressure molding line or like be the maintenance lead at a high pressure molding line.
Right.
Yeah, there are many aerospace, defense, everything is growing. They find normally at our case, people who really stick to the foundries who love it from the heart is the way I see it. Not many people have the stomach for it. The guys we've had they really love the problems that come with it and they just love the industry as a whole. Normally, in our case, we've had boys locally that we've kind of grown with the company and stayed with us. And I don't think for us as an industry, we don't have an area where we go and look at for a particular, you come across people, you meet them and you see if you can adapt it to
So
your
you try
culture.
to spot them wherever, in whatever field you are.
See, you can find somebody in a foundry, but the culture of that foundry is very different from your foundry. Some are very professionally run, some are very owner, kind of the owners being on the shop every day. And they should be able to acclimate. You could pick up the best production guy, but if it does not suit your culture from what he is used to, he does not get the freedom to take the calls he has to take. That can totally not add up to your culture. So it's kind of, I would say, it's a difficult mix to find the right
It's a
people.
50-50 call. Like.
Right.
So for us, it has always been an inbound talent. So our growth has only come because of inbound talent. All the people who have been working so I am the third generation, who have been working with my grandfather, they are working with us. So they have learned from their mistakes, and from their mistakes we have grown. So inbound talent is the thing. And secondly, getting talent from outside, the DNA of my company may be different, his company may be different, or his company may be different. So adapting and providing the results what we want may be difficult. And so inbound talent are more easy, and that is the easiest way to grow. So that is how we have grown multifolds, because of inbound talent. And we stick to that policy.
Right.
Neeraj, what do you mean
It's
by
better
inbound
that we groom our own
The people who have been working with us for past many years.
Okay.
Okay, so as in the talent
In
which
growth.
you had,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
In-house,
growth,
yeah.
in-house.
Someone who is like bit smart, you groom him and then make up to our requirements.
Okay.
So keep grooming your people.
So basically, what you're trying to say is you move people up slowly from the lower to the higher level within the organization. Okay. That's all of you are on the same page.
Yeah.
Do you have?
That's definitely the best approach. And I think the good thing I would say about Foundries over the last several years is that the pay scales and pay structures have also gone up, right? We might not like that from a financial perspective, but certainly from a retention perspective, I think that's become a necessity, right? If you want to retain talent, if you want to attract talent, and I think that's very much happened, right? So I think that's definitely one part of it. And like Neeraj said, right, growing the talent internally is important, right? If you go back 20 years and or let's say you go back 25 years and you say, how many high pressure molding lines were there in India? It was probably 10 maybe,
Yeah.
maybe something in that range. Today, if you go ask that same question, that number is in excess of maybe a couple hundred, close to a couple of
I
hundred
think
maybe.
somebody said 250.
Yeah, okay.
Easy.
Probably more than
You
that.
probably have.
This was
This is just a gut feel number that I said couple hundred, but
casting. So he supplies mold boxes, so he
Yeah.
probably has
sure,
a
right? So now suddenly you look at this and you say, 25x, right? How did this happen, right? How is it going to happen? And then you look a decade out and you say, that 250 might even be 400, 500, right?
1,000, clearly 1,000.
Maybe 1,000, right? And so then how are you going to create talent for this, right? If you're all just trying to poach the same people. So the other view on this, right? And it might be a very contrarian view. So I'll just throw it up for the audience's thought. Is one of the things that we can do today because of AI is actually we can de-skill a lot of the work. So you don't require the same amount of skill that is required to do the same job, right? Because of what AI could do. So this is maybe a slightly controversial opinion, but I just thought I'd throw that up there for
Is
the
that what
benefit
you're
of the
doing?
audience.
Are you currently doing it?
We'd like to,
Okay.
right? I can't say we're doing it, but we'd like to make it easier, right, for somebody who comes into the ecosystem to actually become a contributing member faster, right? It helps the organization for sure, and it helps his career growth as well, right? If he's going to waste, 2 or 3 years of the prime of his career learning, rather than, and if we can speed that up by giving him the right support through AI or through whatever other training that we impart, then that's where we can really add value, right?
You're
Pay
also
better,
lowering-
right?
Yeah.
Because we're getting more value out of the person. So
Right. He can start paying back to you quicker.
Exactly.
Then,
Contributing.
Deepak, I somewhere find a little bit of contradiction here. Like when we are talking about de-skilling the job, and then the guy is doing the job,
yeah.
so he's doing a de-skilled job, which means he's not acquiring any skills. So how would it help his career?
So here's how I look at it, right? His ability to become a contributing member making a significant contribution to the company and therefore adding value, right? And at the end of the day, when somebody adds value is when they can take value out, right? Whether it's us selling castings or making castings, or it's somebody who's working on the shop floor producing these castings, right? So I believe that he can actually add more value, right? Which makes him more valuable. And this is my view on this particular point that's there, right? But it's also something you need to do if we need to scale up, right? If we need to go 2x, right? Can we actually all afford to have 2x the number of people or all of that, right? We can't, right? Because again, the skill level is limited and there's only so much that we can do. At least this is my view on this.
Like you said, you were talking about expansion. Not one thing that I keep, asking myself if I want to expand, can I find more people like I have? Business is not a problem right now. Getting the capital is not a problem. But can I get the people to run the show?
People is going to be a big.
Because as in time to come, the shortage is going to be quite significant the way I see it. Earlier, the foundry is viewed as a dingy place where you come and there's sand flowing around and the particulates. Now, one thing we try and do at GPI is, how can we have a greener environment? You go at Mangesh's plant and see, it does not feel like a foundry. For me, I've been to all his facilities. Yeah. He's put a lot of focus on the environment. It feels like close to a resort. The buildings look nice. The dining area is nice. And I think for the newer generation, that does make
That's what they want.
See, a college guy comes in, okay, we are maybe 50-year-old company. And your canteen is like dingily lit up, or the tables are not what. He's like, I studied to come eat here. You know what I mean? It doesn't motivate a young guy. Then you have some friend in IT who says, "Oh, in my Google office, we have McDonald's and all of these people below, and food comes up to us. Here is a basic necessity of sitting in a clean canteen is not there."
Right.
So those small things do
I think
make
you put it very, very, very strongly.
Yeah, small things do make a difference. Earlier you would get labor from Bihar in these areas. Today there's a lot of development in those areas. They also expect a level of cleanliness. They expect a level of a basic standard is now put as a benchmark, which I think all founder people are working towards. Is we have to do it at some point. Now we are in a position where the industry is growing, so we also wherever we can create better environments for our employees to work in. I would say from my granddad's time to now, it's very clean. But there is still a long way that we can kind of improve the working environment for an employees, may it be via automation, may it be via better dust collector systems or whatever it is. But all foundry people are working, and it's one way to retain people.
Right.
So Mangesh is bringing back the glamour back into the industry somehow.
See, basically, I'm not a foundry man.
Yeah.
So that is why I look at this foundry in all different way. So it's not a foundry for me.
So that's his different thing.
No, also, I wanted Mangesh's opinion on this because he has backward integrated, right? So when you started up your foundry, you did not have this inbound that they had. So how did you get your first
I
10,
come from a machining
15
background, so for me, this was not allowed, kind of. So I being a machining guy, I was more into discipline. I was more into, so it was not. So I wanted to pull machining culture into the foundry.
Right.
And not the foundry culture. Foundry culture was always like dust sand, and then I never saw dust sand into my. So I used to get irritated when I used to see all this in my plant. So when we started our plant and started pulling people and then started getting castings, and I used to see dust everywhere. I used to see sand everywhere, and like, why is this? The equipment is best of all. Everything is in place. Then why is this? It was the mindset rather. And what we did is I said, if you see, you are here to produce castings, it is going to be Maurya culture at last. Culture is going to be ours. But if you want to work this way, the typical way, then I'm going to put up a canteen on the shop floor. So we had a canteen, first canteen on the shop floor, which was like 20 feet, 30 feet away from the molding line. It was all open canteen on the shop floor. And I said, we are all going to have food here for next 1 year. So if you wish to make dust, then you would have to eat dust here. So that culture pushed in a long way, and it became a habit to my people that no, dust is not allowed at all here. No dust, no sand, nothing doing. Anything that leaks, you have to fix it there and there. So it's kind of culture you push in.
Correct. So did you get all these people at one shot, or were they like, how did you hire the first talent that you needed for the?
As and when.
Okay, like all from like basic positions, and you slowly.
Basic positions.
All right.
Basic positions, and then started grooming people.
Great. All right. So can we just quickly wrap up with the talent part? Like today, you said salaries are rising. Right? Would you all be comfortable in sharing what you all pay general managers or plant managers or supervisors? Like, how are the salaries like today? Just rough ballpark figures. Just, I'll tell you why. I get a ton of people, by the way, that reach out to me from NIFT, right, to all these episodes, and they want me to help them get placed somewhere. So now I have 4 emails, right? I'm just going to direct all of y'all them to all of y'all guys, and you all can decide what to do with them. Right? Because a lot of them, and they're all actually graduating from Foundry and Forge institutes. So they already have a certain benchmark.
Yeah. It's a great resource actually. NFT is a great place to recruit from.
Right. So what do you all guys pay?
It depends on city to city as well.
IT salaries and foundry salaries, after some time, there will not be much of a difference because if we don't pay, they are not going to work. As he said, you need to give them good atmosphere. And then gender diversity is what also we need to bring into our industry because we are only looking at 50% of the population. Correct. Rest all 50% is untouched. So we are talking that there is no labor. Second, on this side, there is 50%. But if you have to bring women workforce in, it is a big challenge for Foundry. And for that, we have to do something, at least for Zanvar Group, we have to bring a total cultural shift, right from the mindset to the attitude and to the cleanliness level, right from basic like toilets, right from clean toilets and hygiene levels. So that is what we have to scale up the game. So we are thinking in a different direction because now workforce, as everyone is experiencing, it is going to be a challenging thing. So gender, and we would prefer to have at least 15% of our general workforce to be women workforce, which is a challenging task as of now, but we will be striving to achieve those tasks.
I want Pushkaraj's opinion on this because you have a very young team at SaaS Lab, right? So you're working with a lot of 20 to 30 year olds between that gap. What do you see the new generation want? Like when they come to you, are they picking you or are you picking them? Like what is that conversation about?
So we run a tech company per se in SaaS Labs. So generally we get to pick whom we want to work with. Since it's a research and research-oriented and development-oriented job, good people really want to work with us. So we pick and choose. So that's how it really goes for us. But probably not the same case for Foundries. It's
Yeah, I would say in Foundries, it's just, they all talk to each other and employees.
Everybody is connected.
And they decide what they want to get into very consciously.
Right.
It's not like the old days where, there is a seat vacant, so I will take it. Some people you might be paying them higher, but they don't agree with certain philosophy of the company. They don't want to be a part of that. I would say the senior management per se, they know the culture of each, and they would like to take a jump where they can take their experience and grow that company against filling a vacuum.
Okay.
Okay, so again, like I said, it's a very, what kind of culture each company has will attract the people that you look at.
Right. What do you Mangesh?
Any same. I totally agree.
Okay.
You cannot have something extra.
I would say that with the younger generation, I think there's a much greater feeling of wanting to make an impact, right? That is definitely, I can see that as a generation as a whole. But I think the patience level is also much less because, everything has gotten used to being instant, right? So even gratification, they want it to be instant, right? So doing those 3 years, 5 years, the hard yards, right, to get to the potential that's there is the challenge, right? If they don't feel like they're making an impact or making progress every day, right? So I think that motivation is something that is a little bit more of a struggle, right? I think that's the bigger challenge.
Right. Okay. So this is just a little bit of a off-pin. How can you all foster this thought of entrepreneurship within your foundry organization? Say somebody comes and says they want to leave and start an earlier foundry or their own foundry. Like, how do you try to bring them in and maybe let them do something within your organization where they can be like take complete ownership?
You looking at me?
Yeah.
First?
I mean, you're like a nine. Okay, let's go first with Pushkar because let's see what his thought.
frankly, this has happened to me before. A couple of employees, they started their own business into oil trading, some tool trading. But these are the people who really want to be their own boss.
So it won't work anyway.
So,
Right.
and something that's gone, you simply cannot have it back. So
Yes.
there's no point in convincing people to.
Sometimes somebody excels a lot, but you got to take the whole team along. You can't just do an appraisal for the next person.
Yes.
And if sometimes you can't do good for the person the way he envisions it, it's better you let him take his own path. And none of us take it personally. If somebody puts up a machine, who am I to stop you from putting up a machine shop?
No, we may help them to set up their machine shop or give them some job, but
Yes.
Asking them to stay back on some terms. As of now, we have not done something, but we have helped our
Right.
people who have left to.
So you're very open to this.
Yeah, we are open.
In our case, I think a lot of us, if somebody said, I want to put a machine, I'll say, hey, boss, we have these casting that need to be machined. We know you. We might as well do the job
I
with
think
you.
that's what's actually happening because I interviewed one foundry in Kolhapur and I think they started as a subcontractor to you. So that is how exactly they started. They were a machine shop. You gave them a rough castings, then to start their own foundry. I think this is Ashtavanak foundry. So I interviewed him, and this was actually for Chinese high pressure line that they've put.
Yeah, he's the Chinese guy.
He's a Chinese guy. So your name came up over there. All this goes back circle because this is like a year and a half back. Anyway, so anything to add, Mr. Mangesh? All right. So,
Okay, what was the question?
we are just talking about talent. So this round exactly goes to talent, how to find them, how to train them, how to incorporate them into culture, pay scales, and also finally at the end, if they want to venture out, how do you support them?
So actually, if you remember in our last conversation, we had discussed this. In earlier times, in 70s and 80s, if somebody is working at, say, Aditya's place or Neeraj's place, they would actually onboard their next of kin or friends into the organization because these have been the bigger organizations here. But then after 80s, 90s, when the IT boom started, at one point of time at 2000s, roughly around 2000, 60% of engineering output was recruited in IT.
Wow, so you lost a lot
All
of
of a sudden.
talent.
So 2-3 generations of 10-20 years, engineers practically did not join core sectors like foundry.
No
So-
mechanical.
So if you look at Foundries, the people bringing other people to Foundries, probably now a little bit of younger people are coming in with better facilities to show and display. But no, for quite some time, there have been old people who have been taking good care
No,
of
and
stuff.
to Pushkaraj's point, right? If you look at kind of our next level and the next level, how many of their kids who might have studied engineering are actually coming into Foundry, right?
Yeah.
That's like, and that too, their parents are in the Foundry industry, right? So they know the industry at least, right? If you look at the next level, it's minuscule.
Yeah. They would not recommend anybody to come there, work in Foundry. It's very difficult.
Sometimes people reason and say, what happened in the West will happen here. Like in the West, you had people who did not bring the next generation in. But, they're also not taking into account the dynamics that have changed. You have now AI opportunities, you have work from home. So things are also changing along with people's, even moving from West to East. So it may actually come a point of time where we actually don't have enough manpower to operate stuff. So what safeguarding approaches are you guys taking for that day?
See, the only way we can do is automate it in phases and automate it looking at your customer.
Right.
Okay, so you cannot automate. See, one thing against the West that is different with us is they run a couple of components in the lakhs. Okay, our foundry, we will have part numbers upwards of 3 figures, 100, 120 part numbers. It's not like 3 part numbers do long runs. So we have to find which areas we can automate. Some areas have to be semi-automated, some will have to remain manual, but that will differ from foundry to foundry. One place that we can automate, all of us, is the fettling area, where there is next to zero manpower coming up. No, they're teasing me because I also sell that equipment through my other company.
He has just got a dealership for the fettling automation.
Okay.
No, but
He's trying to promote.
But honestly, before I got into this about a year and a half ago.
Right.
But fettling has
He's solving a problem, guys.
fettling has been a pain point for all of us.
Is going to be.
And in the days to come, is going to get exponentially accelerated. But that's one area we can. Paint shops can be automated to a high extent where we require a lot of labor coming through. In other areas, you can, at the core shop, the high pressure molding, you have to look at your product mix and decide what you want to automate and what you want to leave. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, with the kind of jobs that are coming into India, there will be a high level of automation that you saw in Europe or in China.
Right.
And we are doing longer runs of the same products, which used to be, earlier the product mix was large.
Right.
So I think there will be automation coming in due to a vacuum of people also, but also because we can increase our efficiencies by just taking away things people don't have to manage.
So it's like a work in progress. You're going at it one by one.
At our place, we focus on one area. So for this year, maybe next 2 years, fettling is our issue. Get out of that completely, because Foundry, like Mr. Reddy said, every day there is some expenditure that you have not accounted for that will come all of a sudden. And it could be the smallest part that stops a large operation.
Right. Small bottleneck.
Yeah.
Right. Anything to add?
Yeah, it's automation, right? And the challenge with automation is exactly what Aditya said, right? Is the variety that we do. So how do we find something that's flexible? So the reality is we'll probably have to chart our own path that might be a little different from what is being done in Europe or the US, right? Because to fit our needs, right? I think I don't think the right solution is just to copy what's being done over there and try to replicate it. Or who knows, maybe that is the solution and we just have to land on it, right? And realize that that might be the solution. But my view, at least at this point, is that we'll have to chart our own path in terms of figuring out what works best, right? Because our cost dynamics, people versus automation, is different. Europe is different. US is different. China is different, right? So we'll have to find what works for us. And maybe the right solution is there's some semi-automation stuff that we'll do now. In 5 years, unfortunately, we'll keep on spending more and more money to go from semi-automation to full automation. And our product mixes change, right? I think when we set up a new plant, our expected product mix that we thought would be 50% of what we run on that line is maybe 5% of what we run on that line, right? We have completely different products, what we run today than what we thought we would when we set up that line, right? Which, again, causes another cycle of capex, right? So as flexible as you can be, I think flexibility becomes a big key word here.
Got it. Can we move into some of the latest technology that you all guys have installed today? Like, I think that's where we'll wrap up this entire Foundry session. So what what do you think the latest technology is that you have seen from all your travels? Because you all guys are meeting a lot of people. You guys are constantly getting pitched a lot of products day in day out because people want to use them, use you all guys as resume building for products, right? So what is the latest technologies that you've seen?
I mean, obviously, I think probably the two biggest things that I would say is one in terms of IoT, right? The ability to digitize and digitalize a foundry and keep all the data in a digital format that can actually be used to benefit, right? Whether it might be in terms of quality, it might be in terms of productivity, it might be in terms of people management, decision making skills, all of that, right? So I think having that data and then what you do with that data, right? Potentially with AI, and my view on this is actually extremely positive. The reason is, if you look at where we were, when the world was going through Industry 1.0, the first industrial revolution, right? The printing press from the typewriter from Gutenberg, right? We were probably 60 years behind in India to come to that level. Then you look at what was Industry 2.0, right, which was the assembly line with Henry Ford and all of that. We were probably, again, about 50 years behind. Then you look at a lot more of this automation and all the Industry 3.0 stuff that happened. We were probably 30 years behind, at 35 years behind. And now suddenly when Industry 4.0 is happening, when AI is happening, all of this stuff, we have the ability not to be behind. We have the ability to stay current or even lead this change, right? I think that's the excitement of this opportunity, right? That this transformation is happening at this moment of time when we have the ability to actually lead the world in this, right? And that should be one of the things that's really exciting about being in this industry over the next decade, right? I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and we get to do a lot of cool things that we don't get to copy, but we actually get maybe
To lead the way.
To lead the way and get
Right.
copied, right?
Right.
So you have to innovate now.
Yeah.
Previously we were just copying or like just following, let's say.
Right.
Now we are innovating. So there's no tailor-made solution to it.
Right.
For this automation. It's like as and when things go wrong, you have to keep looking out for some automation. Automation is not always investment. Automation is not always robo or something. It could be any small thing that's working out. And data, as you rightly said, data is something that everybody is trying to pull out of from every other equipment. No matter how we use it is later stage. But AI, what you mentioned, is really, I'm also very keen on how things would work in
How you can
Foundry.
use it in Foundry. Right. What
Yes.
about you all guys? Any AI in Foundry?
Yeah, digitization is must. So it is more important to have it. It can be used for making a right decision making So that is very important. And then even customers now they also want IoT based and Industry 4.0. They also want their data linked with the production what we do.
Okay.
They want it on the cloud. So now they have also scaled up their game. So all the inspection processes what we do, we have to put it on the cloud so that anytime they can get that data. They don't have to come to us. What component is produced now, the dimensions should be uploaded in the cloud. So that is the kind of digitization now we are talking about. So digitization is must, and it may keep on scaling up, and the requirements may keep on going ahead only.
So you mean to say the compliance burden has increased?
You may not call it as burden, but compliance or convenience also. That is also convenient. That is good for us also to have the data in place. Rather than finding the data, it is good for us that it is already in the cloud and we can also pull it out from there.
So is it to do with recalls of the OEMs?
Yes. Precisely with the recalls of the OEM.
Not just recalls, right? But just general disruptions, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you have a diameter that's wrong. They're not going to be able to fit a bearing into it, right? And basically this is ensuring that if you put a part with the oversized or undersized diameter, it's telling you immediately, right? And they know it's been checked. So if they have a problem that happens at their line, they are now able to go back into this data cloud and actually figure out, okay, did you check this part? What was the dimension, right? Okay, then maybe it's not the casting, maybe it's the bearing, right? Whereas before they probably had to wait several hours or days to kind of
Just to get the
Get
figure
some
this
feedback
out.
from you.
Right.
So it's not only to lead the way in terms of advancements, but also compliance part. I think that is mainly where you all guys are using digitization and AI. Like that has been the conversation so far. Okay.
So I told you earlier, right? These guys are in one of the toughest industries that you can go. They don't feel it because they are living it.
No, we feel it.
Okay.
We just cannot say it.
Yeah, you just.
Yeah.
You have to slowly. Your show is classy. Your show is classy. You can't help it. So, give me a little deeper into the latest technology that you all are using. Like, don't just say AI and data and digitalization. Like, tell me exactly. I'm using this software that does so and
Yeah,
so.
but one area you said like is 3D printing. We've been doing that since 2021.
Yeah, I want to get on that. I was getting
Yeah.
there. Right.
So 3D printing, for me, I looked at the motion control division because we have a lot of variety of casting and it's normally small runs. We were trying to get out the product as quick to our customer as possible. And in the oil and gas industry, when they need something, they need it. Price is not a problem when they need it. So we went, Kirloskar Pumps had invested for their, I think, their nuclear division, where they used to make their turbines on the printer. So when
This is sand printing you're talking about.
yeah, sand printing.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity of going seeing that. And just before COVID hit, I ordered out the machine. And the machine.
It's not a cheap machine.
Yeah, and the machine landed up in COVID. Towards the later part of it, we commissioned it. First couple of years, it was a little rough because people didn't understand the technology. Even the OEs, the Indian counterparts were not used to this technology. But slowly, we picked up traction. One way we used to use it is, every time we had a new part, we would print out the gating system, the core and the mold, just making sure that the rejection is controlled at that level because we didn't have any work for the printer as such. We had bought a white elephant which had no work. But that helped us with internal rejections, how to change our die equipment, core boxes. Slowly then we met customers around India and now there's good amount of traction. So, tractor guys have a warranty period of 10 years by which they have to service those parts. Over the period, certain tractors are only made for a limited run and they don't work or something changes and they need spares for it. So now we fill in that gap by printing those parts and supplying it.
So no tooling cost.
Yeah. So, and that helps the customer in certain areas. Also for a product division where we have a lot of R&D going on. For example, non-ferrous castings, we need sometime in low runs. Produce it in that, use it and then change it to production. So that's one area. Plastic printing for patterns is one area where we are exploring. And again, like I said, automation in like areas of fettling, core shop are becoming more popular in India. Earlier, certain people had certain products like blocks and heads where you could automate. We've tried and find like an intermediate arrangement where we can use it for structural castings. So that's one area of automation we are looking at.
Yeah, especially with the 3D printing, like I've seen it in action at PK Steel. So I think we interviewed this company, then PK Steel reached out to us and we did a really nice episode with PK Steel. And this was about 3D printing, 3D sand printing. And I think,
Bangalore?
Yeah, the Bangalore
Near
facility
Bangalore.
in the airport. So this was a really nice, first time, but they're really delicate. But they allow you to make like these really intricate parts. It's like everything looks like art, really. And it's like, it just keeps sliding. It puts binder onto the sand and everything just floats away, what was left. Yeah.
So that is selective laser sintering, right?
Yeah, it's
No,
basically
it's additive.
additive.
It's not SLS.
Like the Novik one?
It's basically the same process that we
Yeah.
use for our core box, but there's a 10 micron layer of sand that keeps coming on and the chemical that keeps hardening it and puts layer by layer.
But wouldn't a 10 micron layer actually invite permeability or gas related
No,
defects?
so we import in a sand from Germany for the printer head specifically. So you'll see the printer parts look much nicer because the sand from Germany is much more circular than the angular sand that you get in India. But pretty much the old process is automated. Again, not that the printer does all the work for you. Still have to have knowledge of gating systems and
Correct.
all of that. It's not like a tailored solution where you get out the casting, right?
The other day I was at Parik Metalcast and they were telling me that they used to send most of them to pour it.
So
For
see,
these,
earlier when
3D
India
printing.
printers came, it was kind of a closed door access
Right.
to like people would not show you unless you really knew the guys.
Correct.
I had a little different approach. So we buy a lot of steel castings also for our other division and non-ferrous casting. So I told those guys, if you have customers you need molds for and they need odd jobs done,
Right.
you're free to come to our facility, see the printer, experience it. So we send out a couple of free molds out to our partners. I said, use them, see what happens. you like it, I'm free to, I'm more than willing to give you guys molds. There's no secrecy about it. Within our industry also, we've supplied to our competitors also, because the product is different, the customer is different. Per se, for a foundry, investing on a 3D printer does not have much return as such.
Right.
It's like a nice toy to have for your customer. To be brutally honest with you, but like if you have where you can value add to it, then it makes sense.
What about, sorry, Prakash?
Yeah, so you actually created a new value stream out of it, a revenue source.
Yeah, so original idea was to use it in-house, and then inorganically we met people, and then we introduced we had one compressor customer in Pune, because each compressor has different wallet castings coming out, and so they would maintain a large inventory of castings which they don't know when they were going to use. Secondly, when they machine them, you can't send a casting back 3 years later to your supplier saying this got rejected for this reason, and the cost would just keep putting onto the product. So they had a French managing director. He had used this technology. He just one day was in Kolhapur and he heard about the printer and he said, I want to come see you guys. And we started with a small project. Today the company has given up their warehousing. We supply them casting just in time. We also send our molds and cores all the way to Kerala to some of their suppliers.
Okay.
So he kind of reverse integrated it into his suppliers also, where certain cores are difficult to manage. You would say print it out from these guys.
Because our last episode was 3D printing with the same, with Voxeljet and X1. So that's how this entire thing
Normally,
came
where
out.
I've
And they
heard this in
commented.
production is like BMW, Mercedes, where they
Yeah.
do it for
Yes,
their
BMW
sports
has a-
cars or very specific
yeah.
engine runs of
So it
particular.
could be a case-to-case basis, but
Or
we'll check
you
it
know
out.
specific things where it's like impossible to create a draft angle to like clear the part from the tool, right? You just get this like crazy geometry that's in there. You
Right.
can do that in 3D printing, which you can't do in.
No, the other
in
thing
SAM,
is
right?
actually, I don't think Aditya spoke about this, but they are printing multiple cores in one batch. It's not
Yeah,
just
that-
one big thing, right?
No,
It's-
we also print
That's
multiple
fair.
parts
So-
in the
so
same.
that's like how they're making use of it. Like they're printing a lot of cores and then they're separating them.
Yeah, so the more you print, the more economical it becomes. If
Yes,
you start using
all the
only a
space.
certain size of the bed, that's more expensive.
Yeah.
We've used 3D printing once actually, very recently last year, where there was a customer that was asking for a certain requirement in terms of casting porosity and all of that, which was impossible. So we actually had to make parts to show them that what was possible, right, and whether that would be acceptable to them, right. So we did some
To prove your point
just
to
to
the
just to prove what is possible, right? Because it's easy for a designer to put something on a drawing and say zero porosity across the whole casting, right? Like the cost of it, right? But B, it's not even possible, right? Because of the way they design the geometry. So we had, sometimes we have to do a quick and dirty trial just to show what is possible, and then.
All right. Okay. I want to jump next to industry overview because Deepak has to run very quickly for a meeting. So 10 years back in industry and today, what has changed? Like from all of your perspectives, what has changed in the industry?
I think I can go first. I'm happy to go. I think there's a much greater willingness to invest in technology. I think that's definitely
Would you agree?
progress that has been there in the industry, right? That I would say is probably one. I think in terms of two, I think the opportunity set has also gone up quite a bit, right? I think we are in this, let's call it lucky phase, right? And to quote what somebody told me recently, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. And I think we've done a lot of things for the preparation, and I think the opportunities come now, right? Financial situation of foundries in Europe, the decarbonization of foundries in Europe is, and the cost factors, right, is there. China plus one is there. The US foundries also, nobody's really invested in capacity over 30 years. A lot of that stuff has happened, right? So there's a lot of opportunities that are there. And I think those who have invested in the right kind of technology, in the right kind of skill set of the people, all of that, right? So I think, we're probably luckier if you multiply these two now than we were 10 years ago.
Right.
Huge market. And the technology is growing.
So
people
willingness
are ready
to
to invest.
Willingness to invest.
People are ready to invest.
Right.
Once they foresee some good market way ahead, people are ready to invest.
Okay.
One who knows the industry.
It could also be the availability of capital. Like I think 10 years earlier, it was probably harder to get finance than today.
Maybe.
Policies have changed. Government policies have changed.
The government is getting supportive.
Right.
I think this decade is going to be for ferrous industry, and if we are ready to invest, if we are ready to take some risk, because there might be a year or so which may be up and down, but at least for this decade, if we invest at right place with the right technology, I don't think we'll be landing up in any problem. And people should invest for at least now, looking at the scenario.
No, I would say, earlier all the capital equipment was dominated coming out of Europe, certain bits out of America.
Good point.
That has changed tremendously in the last 10 years. You have good domestic options, you have good options coming out of China, reliable solutions, which has got the capex cost is kind of, it's not as high as it used to be. I'm not saying it's cheap, but it's not at anywhere that it used to be before. And that will help only the Indian industry grow at a quicker rate. Things are more affordable, that means more people are willing to invest. And then it's just quicker India to India, otherwise you have to wait for equipment to come all the way here, have their people come here. If it's India to India, the traction is much quicker.
Right.
Yeah, he's also on the side of the equipment selling nowadays, so he understands the pain on the other side as well. So from the way I look at it, what I have seen the trend in the Indian industry per se, we used to sell a lot of analog devices earlier, but the trend is whatever new we launch, almost 80% of our revenues come from whatever we launch in last 3 years. So almost everybody is moving towards, one is digitization, data in the cloud or API integration. So every other company is talking about that. And some people want the data in SAP, some people want to have it in cloud or mix and match of it, but ultimately that's where things are heading. As I think everybody is concurring with that. One another thing that I'm also seeing is earlier a recurring cost of anything was kind of bargained against, even service cost or anything. But I think somewhere the mentality also is getting prepped that at some point of time we may need to spend some 100,000 rupees per month just to have AI tokens, which is a clear possibility now. And the mindset is getting set for that.
All right. Does anyone over here own an electric car?
Yeah.
So you're pro EV.
Yes.
So what do you think about the industry and how is it going to change cast iron demand? Because that's something that everyone wants to know about.
Yeah. So the first part of it, I guess, good news for me and my company is that we do a very minuscule amount of parts that go into passenger car, right? Which is where I think, or two-wheeler, right? Which is, we do nothing for two-wheeler. So the impact on us, at least at the moment, doesn't seem to be that significant. Now, when it comes to commercial tractors, I don't really believe it will percolate as much, right? Because one, obviously from a rural area standpoint, reliability of electricity, one, but also, sometimes when you need these to run, you can't afford to have these sitting charging, right? You have a certain window for the harvest, right? You need that tractor to be running as many hours as possible in that window of time, right? So I think tractors is unlikely to shift. I believe the greater shift that's going to happen in tractor is going to be towards hydrogen internal combustion, right? Which might be 10 years out, 15 years out, something like that. And then when we come to heavy commercial vehicles, I think there are use cases at which electric makes sense. And there are use cases where a hydrogen ICE makes sense, right? But like I said, hydrogen ICE is probably 10 to 15 years out. Now, in the use cases where it does make sense, there are multiple ways you could do it. And if you were to go with the most efficient way, it would be an e-axle. And I have found, at least in my experience, that the e-axles generally have a greater casting content than a traditional axle. But you don't have an engine block and a head, which again, we don't make, right? So I would be very happy with the transition to electric. But that being said, there's just, it's not a one size fits all, right? That is how I view it.
So for us, if you see, it's similar. We are also into tractor industry, but we may face challenges because those who are into EV business, so they will switch into our business. So there will be quite a competition, but the size and the requirement is so high, so that might not affect as of now. So as I said, next decade,
Cast iron.
any industry in ferrous will grow.
Right.
Yeah, EV. See, 5 years ago, people thought EV would disrupt the entire uh, passenger car, or let's say any vehicle. But ICE would not vanish now, because previously, like many of the large size companies and like premium companies once declared that this is their last ICE engine. Uh, ICE engine, and they said this is the last generation that we are launching, and after that,
Sales gimmick, I
it's
think.
gonna be like
Possibly.
EV. And after 3-4 years, they come back and say, no, we are coming up with new models.
Right.
See, EV of course is a technology, but ICE won't vanish.
All four of us are not bothered with the EV part.
Okay. So let's
In fact,
move
there
ahead.
are some opportunities where it could actually increase our business if the electrification does happen.
Okay. So
some
you're not
great
losing
opportunities.
sleep over it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, as of now, no.
No.
All right.
Okay, just a very random question out of context. But does anyone know if the battery can be recycled?
Very expensive at the moment.
So, okay, so people are looking at, this is my understanding, right? There is a certain life at which you take the battery out of a vehicle because you lose range, right? So when you lose, let's say you come down to 80% of the range, your usefulness for the vehicle comes down drastically. So you do need to replace the battery, right? But the reality is that battery that has been replaced still has 80% of the capacity. People are now utilizing this for terrestrial applications, right? Because you have solar generating so much power during the day, you need to store that power, right? You cannot really decarbonize the grid without battery storage or pumped hydro storage or something like that, right? So if you can take that battery that still has 80% capacity and use it in a terrestrial application, your life cycle of the battery actually goes up quite significantly, right? You don't have to recycle the battery immediately, right? So I think that's really, the model that will end up working out is, one, battery costs will keep coming down, right? And they have come down quite exponentially over the last 2 decades or so, in terms, if you look at a price per kilowatt hour thing. So your cost of new EVs will come down and become more economical and all of that. I think the flip side of it is your value that you will start getting out of used batteries. Maybe that conversion cost actually will that gap will actually start coming down, because used batteries do have a value to stabilize the grid.
So in short, if I have a EV today, I take the battery, sell it to somebody who is making storages, and just put the delta and buy a new battery, put it in my car.
It's not that simple yet, but hopefully that, I mean, that is what I expect will happen in the near future, right? Maybe that's not yet happening, but that is roughly what I expect will happen in the near future,
So
if it's not happening yet.
Maybe there could be a standardization of battery sizes, and there could be a used market for that.
So
Could go that
context
way.
here being EVs affecting metal casting demand, because if the battery recyclability is a question, then probably the whole segment might die in a few decades. That probably might not happen if there is another use case and a.
See, because the battery capacity matters a lot to me when I'm driving the car, because it impacts my range. I don't want to keep stopping so
Exactly.
frequently to charge, right? So when I get a new battery, I get back my old range. But I don't really care for a terrestrial battery to back up the grid for this kind of surge demand or surge input. I don't really care if I'm occupying, 1 acre or 1.2 acres, right? It maybe now with the cost of land, maybe it matters, but in general, right, in life, it shouldn't matter as much. So that's the hope. That I think that's what makes the most sense, right? Because taking a battery with 80% capacity and then trying to recycle it down to strip it down at a huge cost doesn't make sense.
Very true. Very true. Fantastic point. I never thought about it.
All right. Should we move ahead?
Yeah.
All right. So last leg. Given what all guys know now, right? If you had to restart your Foundry again, what would you do differently?
From zero, or
Yeah, like what all the mistakes along the way. I want the mistakes.
Given boatload of capital, or
Okay. Let's put a number to it. Okay. Let's say we give you 100 crore of capital. Like 1 crore is probably too less. We've already established that.
yeah.
100 crore of capital. Increase your bank size. Now, what do you do differently? And like, how do you even go into the same market you're in, or maybe you look at job working foundries, because all of our guys are running production foundries.
I would do very much the same thing that we're doing. I think we would put a much greater focus on material flow than we did in the past, right? In the past, it was more about capacity, right? And how much we could afford, right? So you put this little thing here, and then a year later, you try to add a pouring machine, or you try to do something. Then you try to add some other, let's say core shooters. You try to do all of these things kind of, piece by piece without necessarily having a full picture, right? And that has a negative impact in terms of how you can optimize your material flow, right? So if I was to do something different today with our foundries and start from scratch, I would still choose the same products, I would choose the same customers, but I would focus a lot more on how do we optimize material flow more specifically.
Okay. This is what happens rather. Every other unit, it's not, he has number of foundries, let's say. So every other plan that comes up, you learn from your mistakes, what you had in your last plant. So the next plant has to have 1 plus. So this happens like.
Correct. Just to add to that, I was at this plant, this banal casting in Goa, right, just 2 days back. And Arpit was telling me that, they only put greenfield projects now.
Himalaya.
No.
Himcast.
Himgiri. Yeah. So he was telling me that they only put greenfield projects because they can plan exactly the material movement and also the space required. Like a brownfield project, you're forced to constrain. You're restricted to that space.
Yes.
So anything to add?
But your product mix does change over a period of time, right? Or at least in our case, it has. I don't know about the others, but the kind of product mix that we're doing has changed quite a bit over the years, which.
Right.
So for us, it is similar. Means we would also prefer to go for greenfield, but we have done a brownfield project also. So there are advantage and disadvantage of greenfield and for brownfield. If I go, I may have all the people in place. I just have to replace the machine and start the production. On the greenfield, then there are different challenges. So that is how we would look at it.
So what would you do differently looking at your journey now?
I would not do anything differently. I would only invest in a higher technology which I have not invested on, higher automation, and as Deepak pointed out, on a process flow. I would also be sticking to the same customers, same components, but a better defined and refined process flow and technology.
Yeah, I would go with what Deepak said is on the point. So when I went to China, when our greenfield project was coming out, the first thing I said is, oh God, the layout is messed up. Because normally in India, you would have a high pressure molding line, then a core shop, then you have a fettling shop because it's more dirtier toward the end of it. But if you go towards China, it starts with the core shop, then the high pressure molding line, then the fettling, and then it's literally single piece flow. I would change my layout, maybe on the equipment might be more aggressive on the automation bit of it, but about layout would be the most area. It takes so much energy away from you every day, you don't realize it, but it does take a lot of your valuable time in terms of figuring out how the castings are flowing in and out.
Especially because you all guys are moving a lot of tons. It's weight, that's what you're selling.
Yeah.
Right.
It's weight that we're dealing in.
Yeah, earlier it was cheap.
And the variety of components are too high. Means one might be small, one might be big, one might require core, one may not require core. So the variety of the castings and the process required is also different.
Correct.
And also people were cheaper. No? So earlier philosophy is what you put a tractor, you move that casting from A to B, you could make. Nowadays, to find a driver for the tractor is a bigger job than figuring out the tractor.
And then loading and unloading the tractor.
Yeah, loading and unloading.
Okay, this is an off-topic question. Who here is running the most unrelated business to Foundry? Because I'm sure you all have many businesses at this point, right?
Sorry?
Who is running the most unrelated business to Foundry? Like who's diversified the most away from Foundry with maybe alternate businesses that you all guys have?
We are only into Foundries.
All
in. We are all in into Foundries.
So you're very disciplined. All in Foundry?
I am all in.
All in Foundry?
I don't do anything else.
So all in Foundry?
Diversified.
You diversified? Okay, so where have you diversified to?
We are into catalyst manufacturing as well.
Okay. So is that
we are into tabular alumina manufacturing. It's a refractory material used by steel mills, refractory companies to manufacture refractories for steel mills. So we are into that as well. It's a technology product. 5 years down the line, it was like 100% import. There was this first plant came in. The first plant came in Calcutta, West Bengal, a German plant. The next plant is ours. The second plant in India.
Okay. How did you spot this opportunity? Like, because if you're like Foundry was your backward integration, so possibly that's why this has happened, right?
We have a technology partner, and
right.
We could every time it's not going to be 100% Maurya stakeholding. Right. So we are diversifying. So it's like some stakeholding in this kind of activities.
Anybody else?
In our case, we already have the other portfolio, but we are spending a lot of time on the other portfolio as well. where we can add more value. Also, having your own product, there's also a certain amount of pride saying that you make a certain transmission or something. So we're spending a lot of time in the marine industry. We are one of India's oldest transmission manufacturers for the marine. Earlier, we used to manufacture only to about 200 horsepower, but with this whole Atmanirbhar push, this year we'll be hitting transmissions up to 2000 horsepower. So, catering to a small part of the Navy and commercial vessels.
Plus, you are into walls.
Yeah, valves has been, but valves, per se, India is not a oil manufacturing, so a lot of it is export, but we work in niche products. We're trying to expand our footprint around the globe, but that has its own journey. It's a slow moving process, but we're doing that.
All right. So last topic before we wrap up, sustainability.
Yeah.
Right. We were already talking about this in the other room. I think we can have the same discussion again. You have a couple of windmills that you bought in '96, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Right. So let's start from there. And what exactly are you guys doing to reduce our carbon footprint, and how is that going to, maybe years down the line, translate into normal business practices?
So one of the first things I learned at my first job is if you don't measure it, you can't improve it, right? So this is a philosophy that was
Peter
taught to
Drucker.
me at my first job, right, by one of the senior managers there. And so I think one of the things that we're doing today, it's taken us a while to start doing it, but one of the things we've been doing over the last year is actually measuring our carbon footprint, right? What is our carbon footprint? What are we doing to mitigate it? And how much have we been able to mitigate it, right? So I would say it's a great deal of pride for me to say that we're able to achieve a number that is, 0.6 kgs of carbon dioxide equivalent per kg of casting produced, right? So this is really, I think, a benchmark level in the world. I think most of the world is at least double of that, and so I'm quite proud of that, right? And this started, like as you mentioned, '96. We set up our first windmills, but really in the 2005 2008 timeframe is when we really started ramping up the investments. And the environment was a lot more friendly at that time because the governments were encouraging renewable investments, whether that was wind or solar, because they wanted to look good, right? Now today, I think the equation's a little bit different. There are more hurdles than there were at that particular point of time, mainly because the government is now losing revenue, right? Because the foundries that are there, the industries in general, the commercial consumers, these are the guys paying the bills, right? And this is how they're going to subsidize the ones that they have to subsidize, right? Whether that might be the farmers, whether that might be the residential consumers, whoever that may be. So now, their view is a little different, right? And also, if everybody sets up solar, there's great power during the day, but what do you do at night, right? So there is a cost to the grid as well. So the governments have become much more cognizant of that as this mismatch is starting to happen. So they don't want to lose us as paying customers. And so therefore it makes sense that the way that they do that is by making it less easy for us to do renewable projects, right? And the reason we've been able to do this is because we've had investments over the years, right? So if you set up a plant 10 years ago, the rules that applied 10 years ago kind of get grandfathered in, right? So if you think things are bad today, the chances are things are only going to get worse tomorrow, right? So if you want to invest, think of it today, right? You'll at least get these rules as against even worse rules that
More
might come in the future, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So that's my view on that.
Yeah, we started working on this. We being 50% into exports, we started working on it 5 years ago because we knew that we would be the first one to get hurt.
Right.
With the CBAM coming in and then regulations coming in and then exports would definitely hamper. So we started working on it and finally, as you rightly said, we started collecting data and everything and then thought of getting into this green casting. Why not get into a green casting certification and all? And last year we did that. We are the third foundry in India to get a green casting produced.
Third foundry in India?
Third foundry in India. Two of them are from Chennai, like Brakes India.
Brakes India
and Madras Engineering.
Yeah.
These two. And the third company is our foundry, which produced green casting certified. So we started working on it. Because again, as I said, 50% into exports, you are going to hit badly.
What does a certification entail? What do you have to do to achieve it? What is it? What is the compliance like?
it's a lengthy process. But it took us 2 years rather to get it done. You get it certified from CII actually, Center of Excellence.
Okay.
And then basically it was a lengthy process because we understood the process. It was something which was totally unknown, but we thought, why not go for it? Because anyhow, tomorrow with CBAM and every other regulations, you have to have it. And then why run when you actually, there is a regulation right there? So let us understand things in advance. And
You're
then
being prepared, basically.
get prepared and understand the process. So tomorrow, if any regulation comes in, of course, this green casting certificate is not going to pay off anything. But again, we at least understand the process. So tomorrow, anything comes our way, we understand and we can deliver accordingly. So we did that voluntarily.
Correct.
For us, sustainability means we started from 2015 for green energy, at least from solar side. But one thing what Kolhapur belt has done is we have installed a sand reclamation plant, which was there are only 2 green sand reclamation plants in India. It is in collaboration with center, state, and local associations. So green sand that we dispose outside is reclaimed and used for core sand. So that is what helped us to have a good carbon footprint, because sand is going to be again a major factor which may not be available. And installing that plant, if Zanvar Group has to install that plant, that may not be viable comparing the cost of the sand. So with the help of government and local association, we could set up the plant. So I think in Kolhapur, we all are having that plant. Secondly, solar energy is what we have been investing. As Deepak said, solar at night, we can't do anything. So we are still far away from getting a green certification. And what a green certification for me, for us, how I consider is 100% units that are utilized by Zanvar Group should be produced. I would not want to go for a green certificate, because there are various things you can get those carbon credit certificates from outside and all those things. But I would like to have that, and that is where we would like to discuss with all the association to talk to government and get these things sorted, because government is making our life difficult. Like, we are the person who pay prompt money in time, and in March now, I think everyone will start getting calls from
Advance
the
tax.
advance electricity bill, which is okay. We are okay with that. But since center is promoting all the green energy drive, we request state government also to take that generously. So that is what
That's not happening actually. Things are getting costlier.
Yeah. And means that is how we are paying for farmers. But then industry needs to survive, and as of now, energy cost is going to be a biggest challenge, because our basic raw material is energy. If we work towards it, we may be more cost effective. We can have more business outside. So that is how we want to be on a sustainable front.
Correct. Can you compare wind versus solar? Like, which do you think is a good opportunity right now?
It's a combination.
It's a balance, I think.
Of everything.
Wind and solar both will be competitive, and wind might have some a leverage against the units that are generated against solar, but then the initial cost of wind is very high, and as of now, initial cost of solar is less. Solar is easy to maintain, wind is not easy to maintain. So there are pros and cons of each. How do you look at it?
So the other way to look at the difference between solar and wind is, if you really want to set up a wind unit, there are certain zones in which you really have to be to set that up. You cannot set that up anywhere in the country, right? If you're in that right wind zone, then you can set up a wind. The investment cost per megawatt is higher, but the plant load factor is also higher, right? So there's certainly that is there going for wind. And wind generally has a tendency to also generate a little bit more power at night as against the day, right? So the right approach might be a blend of the two, perhaps, right? But then you've got to find the right spot for the wind. You've got to find the right spot for the solar. Because solar, the most important thing is, in terms of location, is cheap land. Land has become so expensive, right? That actually has a fairly significant impact on the cost of solar.
You know, coming back to Aditya, you mentioned in the other room that film stars were buying a lot of wind. So how did you come across this and what exactly was this?
No, it's like I said, we happened to find the asset that was auctioned out, and my dad thought it was a good idea that we buy that. As we went into the area, like he said, there are certain wind areas which generate the most amount of wind. And then obviously at this point, for a foundry to put up that kind of capital to cover our power cost, it does not make any sense in putting up capex. So we started venturing out, looking at assets that were not used, or some people had already taken the depreciation but do not want to maintain the windmill. So it's just sitting there. There could be one part that needs to be fixed and it gets running again. But they are not an energy consumer. We look at the asset very
You can gain from
differently.
it. Right.
So what I did is then we went out in the area and started asking which assets are shut down. And the people who are running maintenance know what needs to be fixed where. Because they want business and they want. So then we started acquiring windmills slowly. I think now we've reached, I think we have 26 megawatts of wind and we have about 5 megawatts of solar. I think this year we'll hit our maximum by government rules on how much we can acquire more wind. But for us, sustainability, basically for me was, I started with the basics. Because our foundries, there's a lot of landfill product that comes out. How can you stop landfill? Increase our water in the ground, because we are also use a large amount of water for our furnaces. Me being in Usgaon, water is becoming a scarcity in time to come, which was not the case before. Kagal again, water is available, but then it is going to be a problem in time to come. So, and the basic sustainability runs improves your factory premises as well. And like I said, we first started measuring because we don't know which areas to focus on. Was it air? Was it electricity? And I think sand is going to be a large topic to come. In COVID, we really felt it. All of us,
The supply was constrained.
and it was, you cannot really negotiate terms when you need it. They
It's like
ask a
cylinders today.
price and you do it.
Right,
There's
right.
no kind of going to and fro.
Right.
So I think recycling of sand is going to be a big topic, and with the amount of foundries coming, landfill is not going to be an option. In the cities, you have hardly land left now to fill. So for all of us, with the MPCB rules each year tightening up, and now they have all online, checking. It's not like the MPCB guy comes and then, he has his own personal way. Everything is online. So your chimneys are monitored. Everything is monitored. So he basically comes with a report saying that you're not doing the following things. Either you fix
They
it
put
or
like
this.
sensors in each
Yeah,
chimney.
so all of us, our chimneys are monitored. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's no cheating the system as such. You cannot modulate that what is coming out of your chimney. So in terms of the government has also become more transparent on this dealing.
Even
But
for you all guys, it level the playing field because somebody cannot get away with non-compliance.
yes,
No, but that is mandatory. Now, compliance is one thing which is mandatory, and means all the systems needs to be in place. Means we can't run away from that. Gone are those days where people used to not have all those dust extraction systems and anything, but now it is mandatory.
Right.
It's mandatory.
Rather than doing it for government or for customer, it is for betterment. Like Mangesh told, it is for yourself
Right.
to have a cleaner foundry.
Correct.
and like he said, the earlier we do it, the better, because these costs are just going to go exponentially go up in time to come.
When the demand is there, that's when it will be.
Yeah, like I said, when we set up at Kagal, all of us, they were throwing away land. Please buy it from us.
Right.
Today, the position is that you want to find land in and around Kolhapur, there is no land left to expand. Practically, either the cost of land is so high that you cannot sustain a foundry with the capex that you put into foundry. Second question is, if you start even moving about 150 kilometers around Kolhapur, land is still not cheap.
Are you a happy camper in Chennai?
No, not at all. Land is expensive. That's I think become a fact of most of India, right? And for industries, that is actually when land starts becoming a significant contributor to your investment cost. That's a dead investment, right? It's not something that you really want. So it's not something that's good for the industry in general if land becomes more expensive, right? Maybe some of these guys will start wondering whether, boss, will I make more money shutting down my foundry, getting the land value out of it and just putting it in an FD? Will I make more profit that way than I do, running a foundry? There will be people who definitely will have to start considering that.
Right. All right. Before we have this last rapid fire and close, I'd like to thank Pushkaj for organizing this entire thing. Right. Thank you so much for this special arrangement. It's been really amazing, and it's been really, really insightful talking to this group of leaders here. Thank you for you supporting our channel. I mean, that's much appreciated. All right. So rapid fire, right?
Sure.
What's one you have to answer in like one line or just one word?
Okay.
Right?
So
as
everybody
fast
has
as
to
possible.
answer it, or
Yeah, everybody. Wait, let me see the question first, depending on that, because I don't want your answers to influence each other's. Yeah, okay. I think everybody can answer one. So what's one foundry technology that is very underrated today?
Fettling.
That's the reason I saw it. That's the point. That is going to be answer.
Yeah, I will answer also with fettling.
Fettling?
Yeah.
All right.
Everybody.
Everyone?
No, core shop and fettling.
Both which he does.
Yeah. So he's into.
He is happy.
Right,
Reach
right.
out to me if anybody needs.
He is into right business now.
What about
No,
sand testing is in that corner?
So adding up to what we were saying earlier, right? Find your customer's pain point. Looks like he found the foundry pain point, right? Because it was his pain point.
It was his pain point actually. All right. So what about you? Don't think you, Pushkaj, you came up with
I think
you
he's
agree?
absolutely right.
Okay, so everybody unanimously says fettling.
Fettling, yes.
All right. What is one foundry technology that is very overrated?
High pressure molding lines.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Okay. Do you want to debate coming?
I will debate that. We've seen benefits of doing it, right? Significant benefits where you get much better consistency. The challenge, of course, right, is I think what most people don't look at is the maintenance aspect of it and what it takes to actually run one, right? I think the benefits are sold well. I think the challenges are not. So
Okay. I would like to justify as well my choice. The point is high pressure is more than 10 kg per centimeter square is high pressure. Doesn't matter how much you are molding. So it's like high throughput, high pressure, low throughput, high pressure. Good castings at low throughput also makes sense. But when any one of us talks about high pressure, we are talking about hundreds of molds an hour, or at least 70 to 80 to begin with. So that's why when we say HPML, it's probably not appropriate as a high throughput, but also probably just high quality, low throughput also makes sense. So that's why I said it's overrated. That word is overrated. The technology is really good. That's why.
So basically, it's like they should change the languaging. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, probably yes.
Okay.
But with the scale, previously it's like 10 years ago, HPML line was costing a bomb. But today, with the scale, like the number of HPML lines that are being manufactured, the prices are dropping in. So it's getting more and more cheaper now.
True. So basically, the first time when I was new in the industry, I used to see this HPML lines in and around how they were set up for high production. But one time I went to Brazil, and there's one foundry, they have a high pressure molding machine, and then they have green sand all over the shop. They will make one mold, take it up on the stretcher, put it on the shop floor, and arrange 10 molds, pour it, shovel the sand into a IRIC mixer, and do all these things. So they were making decoration castings. They could afford a high pressure molding machine and a IRIC mixer. It was not a line. So that's what the difference is. It's a molding technology, low throughput, high throughput. That's the difference.
So high pressure molding line is mandatory. Means if you want to put a new foundry, it has to be high pressure molding line. Otherwise, customer are not going to give you any orders. So that is the basic checkpoint to come to your.
Now it's specified actually from the customer side.
Because without high pressure mold, now no customer will qualify your foundry without high pressure molding. That is
Right.
given.
Nobody would entertain.
Because the weight of casting also goes up in the other process.
Because of swelling and
Customer is not
everything,
going to pay you more because your process is not adhering to.
That is given. So high pressure, overrated, underrated, but
It's
it
a
is
mandatory. You don't have a choice.
You don't
Whether
have
you
a
like it or
choice.
not.
But it has, as you said, it has its own advantages.
100%.
And you can't afford 3D printing for running production.
You can afford it.
Yeah. So if you need one, call him for that also.
He's core equipment, fettling equipment, now 3D printing services.
He is discouraging people to not to go for 3D printing and come to him. So he has done a proper study of all the things.
He is utilizing the channel very well.
All right. No, but actually, the question was overrated equipment. So I think maybe you start with HPML. But what do you think is overrated?
I don't think there's anything per se overrated. Everything is evolved with problems that we've had.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that.
Something that's maybe redundant today, like the problem no longer occurs, but you still buy it because everybody just does
No,
it.
we don't buy anything we don't need.
Nothing.
I can tell you that much.
Yeah, Foundry, we are quite stingy people.
Yeah.
Frankly, there is no sixth finger in Foundry industry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either
It's
there's
just
no
fine.
space to
That's
keep
it.
more equipment or you just get what you need.
All right. So moving on. So everybody has children.
Yes.
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 So okay, what's easier, raising kids or running a foundry?
Running a foundry. I'll take that.
That's easier.
It's much easier.
Okay.
Because it's much better than having a 5-year-old tell you everything you're doing wrong and what you need to do, right? And that's
Right. Anyone has anything to say?
I would definitely go with the Foundry.
Running a foundry is
I
easier.
have just 2 young ones right now, so I would say the Foundry is much easier than the kids.
All right. Everybody agrees?
Yes.
Okay. So what's the best business decision you made in one line? Okay, I'll give you a few times to think about it.
to transition from jolt squeeze to high pressure.
Okay, that was done how long back?
The big decision. So when I started running the company, that's about 13ish years ago, we had 1 high pressure molding line and 10 jolt squeeze lines. Today we have 7 high pressure lines. Right? So it's happened over the last 13 years or so.
Okay.
But to make that shift when there was really no, calculation of saying this is how we're going to get a return on investment, but still take that leap, I think was one of the big decisions.
What about you, Mangesh? Best business decision you made? Foundry related.
Getting into a foundry, that's it for me. That helped my growth.
Okay.
If I wouldn't have grown. So getting into a foundry
Okay.
was the best decision.
Like the
we made at
showcase
that
aspect
time.
that you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier. Okay.
Because we were doing very good at that time. We never wanted to get to a foundry, but that was something we did. Because we thought that might be necessary for years, not now, but 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line.
I think this also comes back to your compliance with the CBAM part. It's something that is not necessary today, but you are looking at the longer horizon.
Yes, again, same theory.
Right.
We were doing it, we were cash rich company, but
Right.
again we thought no, this is going to hamper us in next 5-10 years.
Right.
This business model. So we have to switch over. We have to have something captive.
So on Foundry side means high pressure molding and everything, it was mandatory and we had to do it. We did a heavy investment on machining side, and that was a big breakthrough where we got bigger castings machining lines in place, and that was a big decision what we took. We had no knowledge about it and we took the decision. It paid off well.
Okay.
I think for me, more so was getting into manufacturing foundry equipment became more of a passion for me later because, dad and the team had done most of the work when it comes to setting up the shop and knowing things. But the pain point that, as a production guy, which was my responsibility initially, was with the capital equipment. So I think I pushed the team to kind of automate earlier, and that really paid off during COVID because if it was not for the automation and the core shop that we'd automated and the fettling partially at that time, we wouldn't have been able to produce during COVID. We produced our largest, figures. Then I think that's been my contribution when it comes to the company.
All right.
For me, I think it was doing PhD at the age of 38 has been one of the best decisions that I ever made, I guess.
All right. Worst decision you made?
Too many to count. I don't know, setting up a new line because we got awarded some business and the business never materialized, right? So I guess you could count
That
some of
happens,
that.
that
happens a lot. So
Happens a lot.
That happens a lot.
sometimes you just pick the wrong equipment and then you spend too much money and then you spend a lot of time trying to figure out if you can make it work, and then
I think
when you should pull
like
the plug
3D
on it, right?
printing.
Just too many things. Yeah.
A lot many of, and you always learn from your wrongs.
Yeah.
So next time you don't repeat it. That's the crux out of it.
Okay. Anyone else wants to?
I think a foundryman makes a lot of bad decisions in his life. The thing is that till you don't make those wrong ones, you'd never come to the solution kind of it.
The point is you wouldn't know the right ones then.
All right. Last question. Are you hiring?
Yes.
So you can send me your email where people can fill their resumes up.
Sure.
Right? I think
always
that's-
hiring.
How many foundries do you want to send you email? They will send you email. They all will be hiring.
Everybody.
All would be sending you email.
Actually, it's actually for new people who want to apply to work with your guys. So that's
Nice.
what.
Yeah,
So I'll
we-
put all the
we all
emails
are.
down. You can give me your HR emails. I'll
Yeah.
put that down below. So what do we call this episode? I think that's something we have to end on. What is it called?
The Foundry World Conversations with the Young Turks.
I initially wanted to call it "How to Win Big in Foundry," but is that relevant, or what do you guys think?
I think the age matters, so something related to that. These are young Turks contributing big to the industry, so might as well.
No, you see the Rajkot guys are much younger than us.
young.
Rajkot guys, you're surprised when you see the Rajkot guy.
And dude, that's a different ball game. Okay, so
Yeah, I think mainly it's like a full FAQ. Like I think we've covered
Yeah.
literally everything.
You could say an insight into the older foundries in India and their experience, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think we'll just have to wait and watch.
Just freewheeling on Foundry, right? Something
Yeah.
rhyming.
Yeah,
freewheeling on Foundry. That makes sense.
freewheeling on Foundry.
I think you will be the better judge
Or
to
you can,
understand
You can
how
decide.
to make it more lucrative
Or you can
on
copy-
your podcast.
Or you can copy the Nikhil Kamath way and say, WTF is happening to Foundry.
That's how it started, by the way. He sent me this episode,
Yeah.
and he told me like, watch this entire thing. It's only 2.5 hours long. Watch the entire thing. So I had a long drive from Goa. I
Okay.
listened to the entire thing, and that's how I scripted this thing. But so kudos goes to him
Yeah.
for arranging this again. And I think I'll come up with the title over the
Come
next
up with
couple
the title,
of
send
weeks.
4-5 choices. I'll put
Right.
it for vote,
Right,
and
right.
we can vote and can decide. You can
Alright.
also put cast yours, so no problems there.
So I'll put it this way though, right? In terms of delegating authority and responsibility, you can, in India as a democracy, this podcast doesn't have to be, right? You can pick a name and not give us
yes.
a choice on it.
I'm going to do that anyway. I just suggestions is what I'm looking
The
at.
point is, he's asking, so might as well.
I've spent 5 hours on a thumbnail. I'll just be honest with you.
Uh-huh.
It has happened.
Huh.
Yeah, it's like it's. I'm a creative industry. What to do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's wrap up. Thank you,
Yes.
guys. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming.
for having
you.
us.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ghatge. Thank you.